Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
The 0-2. Line drive, base hit into center field. Hayward delivers again. Muncy comes in to score. Right behind him is Peralta. Sliding into second base is Jason Hayward. And the Dodgers have a 3-0 lead.
Kendeigh takes off. Bailey drives one to center field. Rhule going back all the way to the wall. He will leap and he can't catch it. It's over the wall, into the bullpen, Patrick Bailey. The pitch by Suarez, a swing, and there's a drive. That's hit to deep center field. It might go. It's a goner. A tie game at 5. A 2-home run game for Wilson Contreras. A 5-5 game in the bottom of the 8th at Busch Stadium.
Play hard and then get to the fourth quarter. To me, the whole new game begins. And then you get to the final 5 minutes, and it's like NBA basketball. Like, wake me up when there's 5 minutes left on the clock and I'll come watch. Like, that's how we look at football. So starting fast, shoot. I'll be honest with you, if they take the opening kickoff back for a touchdown, you'll probably see me smiling. Like, none of that matters to me. Being down 17-0 doesn't matter to me. How we play going into the fourth quarter, through the fourth quarter, that determines who you are, how you play. Like, the first game is really important to me, obviously. It's this game, how we play to the end of the year. We want to be a team that gets better every game, gets better every drive, gets better through the season. So this is a great day for us. It's the great first step on an amazing journey.
Yeah, wake me up when it's time for the DB show with my main man, Ravi Lulla. He's the ace in the hole. It's like calling to the bully. He'll be the one that's a little more sharp dressed. He's got the pretty picture with the nice little specs. I'm just the guy that likes to yap. But welcome in. We are looking live, Ravi, on a warm-up Wednesday, the eve before we kick it off. We got volleyball day. We've got a lot going on. Roster cuts.
Oof.
Last time I checked,
couple Huskers on the block.
Yeah, my man Garrett Nelson, Adrian Martinez,
Vokalek. I thought Vokalek might make it.
And you know what? He may get to another roster.
Yeah, because he played pretty well.
Yeah, he's all right. We are live from the Hurrdat Sports Bar studio. The little dude over there, Pocket Hercules, hiding behind his little Snoopy Woodstock doghouse. Man, how are things?
I'm good. I'm getting excited.
Yeah, it's about that time.
I'm starting to feel. I woke up this morning. I was starting to feel some of the juices flowing. I was like, all right, is it Thursday yet?
Woke up this morning with my mind. It was stayed on freedom. We are live on.
Right there.
Do you remember that? Did you guys sing that song?
No.
You were out in the burbs. I don't know. I think those were back at my Lothrop elementary days. But I do remember that. I do remember that song.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of that going on at Miller North Middle at about 141st and Center.
Were you guys the Mustangs too? Or
yeah,
you the junior ponies? Or
no, we were the Mustangs. Kiewit was the Colts. Yeah,
Colts. Yeah,
we were the Mustangs. We were the real Miller North, So.
Go Stangs. As we welcome
Roll Stangs. That's
Tri-Cities, man. Thank you for being a part of what we do. Plenty of ways to get us. I don't know them all. There's YouTube, right? We've got our own RSS feed, so you can just click in the DB show with Ravi Lulla.
That's important to know because everything used to be under one umbrella.
Yeah, we're trying to parse it out for you guys because apparently the free world likes a la carte.
We're out on our own now. We're out in the wilderness by ourselves. The Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla on all your podcast platforms. We stream live on Twitter too.
Yeah, is that Patti LaBelle on my own with Jeffrey Osborne? I don't know. Would anybody know that?
I'm not gonna lie to you.
Some folks in Grand Island, I'm sure they're like, yes, that's Patti LaBelle, man, with Jeffrey Osborne.
Patti LaBelle is a little outside my wheelhouse.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's not like a belt high fastball.
No,
it's not like the one Hayward hit last night.
It's a little more of a kind of backdoor slider.
You know what happens with slide pieces when they don't slide? They leave the building.
Yard work.
Yes. You are looking live. So you said you're getting excited. Wait.
Yeah. I'm Doc Sadler over here.
It's excited. Do people really genuinely know that you're a Nebraska football fan?
No.
Yeah.
People think I'm a hater.
No, I know, and it's funny too. You kind of get pigeonholed into a Creighton guy, but they'll figure out your versatility here in a very short amount of time.
And so, I mean, a little inside baseball here.
Oh, is this how we're gonna grind up the pork and add the sage? Is this how the sausage?
You don't know how the sausage is made.
I need a grinder,
like a meat grinder.
Yeah, because I need something to do with some of the bad cuts that I thought I could transform when I bought a cow that I'm just not very. Don't have the versatility for.
No.
Some things I don't even know what they are. I have to Google.
I told you we need to have like a little.
Yeah. Hey, so we're definitely doing that. I thought about that for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
Right. Your wife can.
She can
gonna sound weird, but she can definitely cut my meat. Right. Like I'm gonna go to. I'm gonna go to. Because it's just cheaper that way.
It is. No, it's so much cheaper if you can buy like a side of beef. Or even a half side of beef and have somebody.
Even like those big things that they have at Costco, like the rib something, and you like throw it on the table. And
it's like it probably ends up
feet.
being like a quarter side is
that
what that
is?
probably something.
Yeah, I don't know. I just want the rib stuff.
But yeah,
where you get like the 2 beef ribs and the ribeyes. And
yeah,
I've watched them cut tenderloin. I'm going to say this wrong. One of the meatheads out here will tell me. But
literal
like,
meatheads,
when you
not
cut
like
up the pork
meatheads.
too, right? Where you get like the money muscle and the loin. And
yeah.
I want to do that too.
Yeah, she could probably teach you how to do it, honestly. Like she does. She is a professional chef.
Do you know my study habits?
I don't.
But I am a kinesthetic guy. So like if she showed me and she was doing, like I could mimic it.
Right. Yeah. I think you figured it
Now
out.
the whole finagling and finding and peeling back and
that's
all that,
the tricky part is to know where to cut.
Yeah, see, I'm gonna have to watch close.
Yeah, she's got that down.
Should I get one of those cool little sharpening things that looks like a giant pencil sharpener, but you just go?
Yeah, make sure you got your blades on point.
Yeah.
If you're doing that kind of work, you need to make sure your knives are pristine.
I have 2 sharpeners and they pretty much suck right now.
Yeah.
They're like handles. They look like brass knuckles, but then they have this like little angular blade and you're supposed to put it in there. I don't feel like it works anymore.
Honestly, you probably want to have your knives like professionally sharpened.
Yeah.
They have like places you can go.
Do they?
Yeah.
How much does that run you?
No idea.
Yeah.
Because they have a guy that does it at the restaurant.
I got a guy.
Oh, I don't have a guy.
I don't have a guy. You're so bougie. Somebody doesn't do that for you?
Well, I don't cook, so I don't use knives.
I don't cook.
My wife has her knives sharpened.
I don't cook
because they have a guy at the restaurant that does it for them, so they don't get charged for it. But yeah, I have no idea.
Your wife is very businessy in her approach. Is there some softness behind that exterior?
Oh yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, because I don't want to. I know we've hung out a couple times, watched a few fights. She's very quiet.
So what she's I think she's kind of like you.
Okay, she's gonna feel it out.
Yeah, has to feel out the situation, especially with new people. Not always the most comfortable.
Yeah.
And then
cool.
Once she gets to know people, she's very like friendly and warm. But it takes her a little bit to get comfortable.
Not to put you on the spot in case you don't know, but when's her birthday?
April 5th.
April 5th. So she is in Aries?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, a lot like my mom.
Yeah.
Very okay. So she's gonna kind of scope it out. Loves hard, but can hate pretty hard as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That'd be an Aries.
You don't want to get on her bad side.
It's very soft spoken. My mom has the memory of an elephant.
Okay.
So she'll like recall something from like 91 that made her feel a certain way. Now she'll have probably moved on, but it's in the Rolodex.
She'll remember.
Yeah, it's in the Rolodex.
Yeah. She's with that. She's like that with some stuff, especially if somebody has wronged her. She will never forget it. But she's got this weird thing where I call it, or she calls it, her map brain. Like if she's been somewhere one time, her brain like GPSs that thing, and she can get there. Like her memory on stuff like that is incredible.
Zoe Ryan, that is Ryder.
And
she's something else.
Yeah, I can't do that at all. I've been to some of my friends' houses like dozens of times, and I have to ask for the address every time.
You realize I was terrified for Caleb to get a driver's license. Not because he can't drive, because he's a very good driver, knock on wood. My man can't memorize. Just like, hey man, we going north or south, or what are we doing?
I'm pretty good in Omaha because it's pretty easy to get around.
Yeah.
But anywhere she's ever been at least once, she has it memorized. It's kind of crazy.
That's funny. So you married married somebody that's pretty independent by nature.
Oh,
that's an Aries.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
for sure.
So did you kind of like have to like get in where you fit in, or?
Well, we fit in pretty well, but there was a little bit of a kind of learning curve.
Yeah.
Where it's like
another baseball reference. It's volleyball day. Come on.
Oh,
man.
my bad. There was a little bit of a setup. I don't know. I like volleyball. I'm not great with the terms.
There's a little bit of an L2. little bit. Nebraska's got.
I thought that was like a spine thing.
Well, Nebraska's got. Yeah, Nebraska's got to find some consistency there. That's why it's fresh on the brain.
It's a big day around here in Nebraska. We're gonna have 90,000 people watching volleyball.
Yeah, I just can't imagine being 90,000 anywhere. It gives me a little anxiety.
Yeah,
this is a big deal.
It's weird because I don't super love crowds, like big crowds like that. I'm okay at like CHI because I'm there so much that I feel pretty comfortable. But the 90,000 at Memorial Stadium is overwhelming sometimes.
And I know they've done it right. Obviously, they do it every home game for football, but like that's gonna be, I think it's 4:30 is the start time, right? Is that right?
I think so.
So I'm guessing you back that thing up to about 1:30. When do gates open? Should I know?
I don't know when the gates open.
I would guess 2 hours before, 2:30 maybe. That might be a little late.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, are people like tailgating this thing?
I don't know, man. I think all of Wayne is coming.
I think all of like half of the towns in Nebraska are coming.
Yeah, just to be part of a record.
I think it. Well, I mean, part of a record, but I've also seen a bunch on Twitter, a bunch of the high school volleyball teams.
So if you're a coach, you're giving your team the day off because they're in season.
I think so. It's a pretty unique opportunity.
You can call it a field trip.
Well, team bonding, stuff like that. Coach Rhule does that all the time. Takes his guys out and does stuff.
Coach Rhule is in a good frame of mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You like where he's at right now,
or what?
Are you in a good mood? I asked him last night. It was a little late. I wasn't sure if if we're supposed to wear pants. Because all coaches are different, right?
With like travel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with pants being an option, what do you think Coach Rhule said? Yes or no?
No, I don't. I can't. I don't want to say anything about it. I just don't know.
No, we're wearing pants.
You're wearing pants.
Yeah,
okay.
we're wearing pants.
Fair.
There's a proper way to do things, but he loves being on the road.
Yeah, he was talking about that.
Yeah,
that was There was some interesting stuff there yesterday with his comments.
Tomorrow, when we do our prediction sure to go right and all that other stuff, because we'll get into a little bit today, right? Starting breakdowns. I actually think opening on the road for this football team is a good thing.
Yeah, when you heard him talk about it yesterday, he certainly didn't seem to mind.
Nope.
And it might actually, with the anticipation, with the
all we are is getting a little anticipation. I just make up stuff.
Is that a real song?
No.
Okay.
Shane, what's the real song? I kind of did I don't know what it is when it sounds like it's
parody. It's a parody.
Yeah, when it's supposed it has the tune, but it's not the right words.
Yeah, it's parody. It's the Weird Al thing.
Yeah, Shane. Nobody asked you to play any drops this early.
I was blinded by the light.
Blinded by the light.
That too. It's a quality song. The funny thing is, I never know because your music Rolodex is way bigger than mine.
It's pretty ridiculous.
I never know if you're singing a real song that I just don't know,
or one that I made
or if
up,
you're just making it up on the fly.
So it's about 50-50.
So I'm just sitting here being like,
kind of like my mood.
Is this some more Patti LaBelle or is this a DB original?
On my own. I wish that was a good crooner.
Kind of like your mood.
Yeah, 50-50. It's a crapshoot. No, I'm actually happy. I snapped at our kids yesterday, and I apologize without apologizing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I told them, I just don't. I'm gonna miss my guys today.
Yeah,
and so I'm a little nervous. Isn't the word, but I don't like being. I've never been away during prep time.
Really?
Yeah. So
Well, yeah, because you didn't start doing this till last year.
and the schedule worked out
Yeah.
beautifully. And then now all of a sudden these guys this year want to play a Thursday and a Friday night game. So we're
Yeah.
gonna have some speaks about that later. But I don't hold all the cards, so I just had to play the hand that I was dealt. But ultimately at the end of this season, when I'm finished with the network, I'm gonna be like my man in Rounders. Chick, you flip, chick, you beat me fast. I'm gonna play a good hand.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll flop the straight, but
they're gonna pay that man his money.
yeah, that was so good. That was so stinking good. Should we go to the phone lines, Ravi? I feel like this has potential to get squirrely early, like the juice is high.
I think we're already there.
We got categories to get to. We got Andy Kendeigh to get to. We have Avery Howard to get to. We've got
a game we got to get to.
We have a game.
We have a game.
What game? Categories?
No, we have a game we got to get to.
What game?
It's a surprise.
You got aces? Are you playing Jack 9 offsuit?
No, we got a sports game to play too.
Oh, I like games.
Yeah, I think you'll like it.
Shall we?
I didn't invent
a game.
I didn't invent it.
Are you
but
Matthew Broderick?
I think you're gonna like it.
Matthew Lulla?
No, there's not a lot of Matthew.
I don't know if I would.
Lullas in the world.
Good point. Let's go to TK on line 1. TK,
War Horse hotline.
On our War Horse hotline, baby. Trojan up. TK, good morning,
boys.
How we doing?
Oh, no, they're in paradise.
Let's go. Let's get it.
Got 2 questions for you.
Uh-oh. Man.
Do volleyball, do they keep the sweet streak alive tonight? Because Omaha's tough.
Yep.
And this is their Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Basically.
Good call. Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. 3-0. I say yes.
I'm gonna say no on the sweep. I'm gonna say 3-1.
Oh, Mr. Contrarian, you just can't agree with your boy.
It's just such a weird.
TK, what say you?
It's such a weird atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
Well, I would like to think that we're going to keep this sweet streak alive for a while, but volleyball is such one of those sports where people get on runs, and then teams kind of concede a little bit because they know they have some extra chances to win.
Yeah.
So I could see it ending because Omaha will play really, really tough. But
and Buttermore, he's a stud. I mean, he's a fantastic coach, so you'll have him ready.
Yeah.
What do you got?
And the second thing I got for you guys is, am I correct in thinking that the fullbacks and tight ends will be where most of our offensive touchdown production will come tomorrow?
Gosh,
I think,
awesome.
Between the 2 of those, we got 2 touchdowns.
You know what? I'm inclined to agree. I don't know about 2, but I appreciate the call, TK. See, TK and I are kind of thinking alike.
Yeah, I'm on the same page.
I like our tight ends and I like our fullbacks.
And I'm not sure about the wide receivers.
Yeah.
So that lends itself to those groups stepping up.
Although we did get some good news.
Marcus Washington
and
Teddy P.
Yes.
Both up and ready to go.
Yeah.
As Matt
and
Rhule
he's
says
got a
it.
couple key guys. He probably won't say until, I don't know if he'll say tonight or tomorrow. When does he have to talk about potentials? Because we got a couple of guys that are traveling that are going to go see the trainer and see if they're ready to go too.
Well, I know it wasn't yesterday because he's like, I'm not going to tell you till I have to.
I don't know that.
Because he's not trying to hand Minnesota any information yet. So I think it's morning of the game day.
So tomorrow,
I think.
Will I have some breaking news sounders?
You might.
Shane, do we even have a breaking news sounder?
Yeah, I haven't thought about it.
That's good to know.
Okay.
That's good to know. Hasn't thought about it.
That's good. Let's go to. Oh, is that it? Thank you. Such an adult this morning. Let's go to Brett on our War Horse hotline. Brett, good morning, man. What's on your mind?
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. Hey, DB. Looks
What's
like
up?
Your son, Caleb, got all the athletic ability from his mother. That
Yeah.
was quite the
1,000%.
performance last week.
1,000%.
But, so my 2 questions I have is, when do you think we will implement like a mercy rule in high school football? I mean, you have it in baseball, you have it in basketball. the numbers haven't dipped.
You mean we're just game over, not running clock?
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, 93-0 does nothing for a kid except for get them to not want to play the sport.
No, I understand.
Even 57-7.
Yeah. So,
And
Brett, do you remember in like 15 and 17 when Bellevue West beat Bellevue East by like a combined score of like 174-0? I think it was 80. It was 80-something and 82-0 or something like that. And I was just like, I don't remember the outcry, but you're right. It's been going on for quite a while.
But even being out here in North Platte, like we went through some years where we were really bad.
Yeah.
Our numbers still haven't recovered, even though we're better. And I just feel like it's because those kids at a young age see that. I don't want to be a part of it. The second thing is I think we need to, Texas has done it, California, some other states. We have the video capabilities to do replay. I mean, if you look at that Bennington game, even family back in the motherland in North Korea could see that dude was not across the goal line. I mean, that was just like
North Korea, huh? Put that on the bingo board. Hey, Brett.
I just feel like we could do better for our kids.
You got to do me a favor since you're right in the neighborhood. Go see our folks at Pratt Dental and tell them that DB and Ravi said hello. Can you do that for me?
Yeah, I will. Hey, the little man Parker wanted me to congratulate you and your kiddo last weekend. And first thing the little guy said was, when's Caleb coming into Nebraska? Better ask DB. So my kid,
I see what you did.
He's still
there.
on the train.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Are you guys going to make the trip when you come?
Oh, 100%.
Oh, let's go, man. I'll be.
We are going to the. Parker got invited to the Team USA baseball training academy in North Carolina for next year's Team 14 baseball. So we're gonna make that plunge.
All right, I'll be a good host for you. Tell them congratulations.
Yeah, have a good one, guys.
Thanks, champ. North Platte's finest.
You know, the funny thing about that is
this ought to be good.
Think
you're
you
not
know.
Smiling.
I think you know about as much as where Caleb's going as the rest of us.
Yeah, I know.
That's the funny thing about it.
Yeah, I could get it narrowed down though.
You could narrow it down, but as far as like where he actually ends up going, I think you're in the same.
I could also tell you who's the fave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
That would be the state school. It's not even that hard. I don't know what he's done. I don't have any idea what he's waiting on. I really don't. You know, but to be honest though, he's not really thinking about it. I think his big thing is he wants to be better these first 3 games than he was the last 3 games of last year.
You told me what he was waiting on.
Oh, I know, right? But I mean, you know, people are weird.
People are weird. Listen, everybody's got their own process.
Are you excited about our lineup?
I am excited about our lineup, man. We're jam packed today.
I know Shane drives me crazy because how many times did he parse through it yesterday? And we're like, wait, so is such and such?
Yeah, I got a little.
The whole Mitch Sherman thing confused me.
Yeah.
So Mitch is doing Wednesday today because we play tomorrow, and you had to.
He's traveling tomorrow.
He's traveling tomorrow. I can't wait to see Mitch. I wonder where he's staying.
I don't know.
Andy and those guys will be there tonight.
He's bumming a room with you, didn't you know?
No, I'm too old for that.
You're not bunking with anybody?
I'm still trying to get people in my family to understand other people live there. Like, that's just an easy rule. When you leave a room, just think to yourself, other people live here.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's pretty much a nice little guided term.
More of Benning and Lulla coming up next.
The show will be back in 5 minutes. The show will be back in 4 minutes.
And we have a lot of guys who pay a lot of price.
The show will be back in 3 minutes. The show will be back in 2 minutes. The show will be back in 1 minute. The show will be back in 30 seconds. Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
Yeah, we have a lot of guys who've paid a lot of the price, and you like to be able to take more people with you. To Amy's point, we have one or two guys that we think are going to be able to play, but we're not sure. So, we're going to bring them, have them treat and rehab and get them to the game and warm them up and see what they can do. So, 74, last time I was in college, I think it was 70. So there's, 4 more spots, which I think is great. But, we'll take like our fourth quarterback now, which we've never been able to do before. So, but you do feel bad that some guys who've really practiced hard and played hard are going to have to watch it from their dorm rooms or from their apartments. But, we'll be home soon.
Got a lot of guys. We got a mic here. We good?
You're good. I'm just going to start ignoring it.
Yeah. Matt Rhule's got a lot of guys. We've got a lot of guys and gals on the show today. Brian Christopherson at 8 o'clock.
OB Sizzle.
We've got Andy Kendeigh at 8:30.
Yeah, AK for Channel 7.
Mitch Sherman at 9.
Mighty Mitch.
And Hurrdat Sports own Avarie Howard at 9:45.
The other number 21.
The other number 21. Our guy, DB over here, the OG 21.
Roger Craig.
The OG 21, Damon Benning.
I sent him a birthday. You know who else is a? Never mind.
Aries.
I don't want to get off topic.
Roger Craig, the Aries.
I don't want to get OT.
Listen, he's a great. Roger Craig.
My favorite.
Niner great.
Yes, my favorite. Again, it'd have been a lot easier if I could have worn 3, but I'll gladly take having to wear 21.
Why couldn't
Shout
you
out
3?
Why couldn't I wear 3?
Yeah.
Even though we came in the same year.
Yeah.
T. Wright was older because
Oh,
he came from junior college, and so
gotcha.
of course the consummate diplomat that Coach Osborne is made a very undiplomatic decision. As I spit my drink. Yeah, I couldn't even say that with a straight face. Yeah, so I did the next best thing. 2 + 1.
2 + 1.
3. And
Nice.
RC was my favorite.
There we go. So we've got some categories we kind of teased yesterday as we start to preview Nebraska football. This is the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla, by the way, in case you forgot.
This old DB's fine.
You can join us on the Warhorse hotline, 888-638-4876.
Can you whinny?
Like a horse?
Yeah.
No.
Every time I hear Warhorse, I just want to
Go for it. Why don't you give it a go?
I can't do it on demand.
Well, just I won't look at you. Just surprise me with it.
That's childish. like a parent encouraging their kid. I won't watch it.
No,
I'm not going to look at you.
Listen, some people have performance anxiety. I don't want it to be a thing for you. You can also get us on the DB.
There's other people you can go see for that.
You can get us at the DB Show at hurrdatsports.com. We both I monitor it right now. I still got to put it on Damon's computer.
What are you doing?
What?
Yeah. Can you do that?
I will. I'll do it after the show.
Thanks.
I'll do it after the show.
How long is that going to take?
Like 2 minutes.
Are you sure?
It took me like 2 minutes.
Yeah. I
know you got to get out of here.
I know. And I'm a little I'm a little OCD.
A little paranoid about getting there late.
No.
Okay.
So we got an updated itinerary yesterday.
Yeah.
He pushed everything back 10 minutes.
Oh, so you'll be all right.
Yeah. But it's just weird that you updated for the 10 minutes. That's how precise it is.
That's he doesn't leave anything up to chance.
No, clearly he does not.
That's not like we do things here. We leave a lot up to chance. We're kind of just flying wild out here.
Like my personality, 50-50.
50-50. Just flip a coin. Let the gods decide.
Yes. Yes. You ready for a category?
I am, yeah. We teased some categories yesterday. Damon came up with this idea. I thought it was really interesting exercise to go through. So there's 3 categories we're going to put players into.
Correct. And you can pick no more than 3, but up to 3. If it's less than 3, that's okay.
I've got 3 in each.
Okay.
The first one, show and it will tell.
Show and it will tell, meaning however they perform, it will be very telling on how you believe the season.
It's like a barometer.
Yeah.
These guys are barometers for how the season will go.
Did you ever wonder why people say barometer, but yet it's barometric pressure? Why isn't it barometric?
Maybe because it's hard to pronounce.
Hey, if you don't stop with the rule, like this, does Coach Rhule have an answer for everything?
He does.
Somebody said, it might have been Severe. I don't know. He said, the best thing about Coach Rhule is if you can ask him a question, he has to pause. I go, like, how often does that happen?
Not a lot.
Yeah.
So show and it will tell.
Yes.
That's number 1. Now or never.
It's now or never.
These are guys that are kind of like, hey, if it doesn't happen this year, it's probably not going to happen.
Right.
That's how we feel about it. And last but not least, didn't see that coming. Good or bad, guys that are kind of coming off the radar that we think might have bigger impacts on the season than they're currently being talked about.
Yeah, that's pretty good for a guy that didn't originate the idea. That's 1,000 times a better explanation than I would have done. Does that say more about me or you?
I think it says that you
understand what I think.
Yeah, I kind of understand what you were getting at.
Thank you.
Yeah,
it's a lot easier when you say it.
So you want to start with show and it will tell, or where do you want to start?
Show and it will tell.
All right, so I got 3 guys here. I got 3 guys in every category. I thought about this a lot. Okay, probably too much. I maybe overanalyzed, but we talked a little bit yesterday. Like Jeff Sims is the low-hanging fruit here.
Yep, I did not take Jeff Sims in any of these categories.
I didn't either, because that's, kind of an obvious. I want to get a little deeper than that. Right?
Correct.
So you're going to notice a theme with my guys in this category. They're guys that have been kind of lifted up this offseason as...
Can you raise me up?
All right, Josh Groban. See, I got that one.
You're kind of a pop culture nerd.
A little bit, yeah. If you give me like modern stuff, I'm pretty good.
Isn't it like The Voice or something?
I don't know.
Shane, where was he found?
It was probably The Voice or America's Got Talent. One of those. It was one of those.
I have no idea. I don't watch a lot of those. I don't have anything against them. I just don't watch a lot of them.
Hey, nothing personal, but you're not for me.
Yeah, it's just, it's like Nebraska. We're not for everyone. So my guys you're going to notice a theme here. They're guys that have been talked about a lot in the offseason as really good examples of what they want out of this program.
You're already setting me up that we're going to have one of the same guys in the first one. I can tell.
Might have multiples. So you want me to give all 3, or you?
No, you go.
Okay.
You go first, and then I'll give
my
you one.
First one is Ethan Piper.
Okay. It's not what I was going with that one.
Okay.
Do tell.
Well, he's a guy that wasn't always necessarily looked at as a starter. That looks like he's going to play a pretty important role on the offensive line. He has been one of those guys throughout the offseason, whether it's the honorary single-digit deal that he got voted for, whether it's going to media days, those types of things, where he is kind of the shining example of what Matt Rhule wants from his culture. And all 3 of my guys fall in that category. And my thought is, if the guys that are examples of what the program is supposed to be about perform well, then whatever maybe hesitancy or whatever there is on buy-in evaporates, right? Because it's I like the term proof of concept a lot.
Mm-hmm.
If the guys that are the shining examples of what you want out of your program are also successful on the field, then all of a sudden it gives a whole new level of validation to what you're asking out of guys.
Teddy Pendergrass, one shining moment.
One shining moment.
That's a good one.
So Ethan Piper is all 3 of my guys fall in that similar category.
Okay, I'll give you my first one is Gabe Ervin.
Okay.
For very similar reasons.
Okay.
Right? Kind of been propped up.
Mm-hmm.
This running back room has been praised quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Its depth, its versatility. Some put it on par with any other team in the Big Ten. I have a little reservation.
I
right?
do as well.
But I think in the show and tell category, if Gabe Ervin is who they think he is, yeah. So to go all Dennis Green, then Nebraska should have a pretty good season in terms of being able to build on how they thought of the offseason, right? Because what do we heard? The reoccurring theme is, hey, I'm going with the real ones.
Mm-hmm.
You got to do things a certain way. You have to get in where you fit in.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't fit, there's been this whole kind of cultural rally cry.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not necessarily putting him on the clock, but because when I was listening to Schaefer yesterday
in the now or never category,
and he put him in the now or never category,
that's kind of where I
could see him in the now or never category too, and you could convince me of that, especially the way that Schaefer put it so well. But if Gabe Ervin is good, it does a little bit of validation in terms of, is this fluff? Is this real? Is this a fluff piece? Is this an ego boost? Because we have yet to really see it. We've seen flashes.
Sure.
We haven't seen on a consistent level.
Yeah.
And they're kind of hard guys to win over. So for them to gravitate so quickly,
you think there's something there.
He's my easy first choice in show, and it will tell.
All right. More of show and it will tell and our other 2 categories coming up next.
Jay, stay right there
on Benning and Lulla.
We will be back in 4 minutes. We will be back in 3 minutes.
Check, 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 check. Check, 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 check.
Can people hear this?
We will be back in 4 minutes. We will be back in 3 minutes. Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
Janiran Bonner, he's sort of a hybrid type tight end for us. We think he's going to play a lot of football for us. We have Luke Lindenmeyer, who's really good on the line tight end. He can play the Y and the F. Jake Applegate was traveling, so our travel list was made before obviously last night's news. As you guys know, Eric probably wasn't going to travel with us anyway. He's just been kind of on the scout team, so we've been rocking with those guys all camp, and we have a lot of confidence in them. We also have some O-linemen who practice at the tight end position for some of our bigger sets. So we have a lot of options.
DB's taking a victory lap over here because Coach Rhule just named all the guys that he likes. Lindenmeyer.
Like same guys I was talking about yesterday. And
Bonner's my guy.
We've never even talked about this stuff because he dropped two that most people don't think of, Lindenmeyer and Jake Applegate.
Yeah, for sure.
And those are the guys that I was like, I like that room probably better than most. And I said, what I say yesterday, even though it's not as star-studded outside of Fedoni?
Potentially Fedoni.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, and I've been on...
I mean, let's say highly touted.
Yeah.
My bad.
I'm really high on Bonner. I think the way they're going to use him is very similar to how they used Jaheim Bell in South Carolina. So,
by the way, real quick.
Yeah.
Scheduling note, I have it on very, very good authority.
Yes.
He's such a subtle texter, too. He doesn't waste a lot of words. Gates open at 3 p.m. for volleyball.
p.m.
That seems snug, but, man, go ahead, do your thing.
Yeah, listen, They're
Because I
not.
think Nebraska Public Media has the first game, and they'll replay Nebraska and Omaha Friday.
Yes, I believe that's
Well,
correct.
that is going to be tweet.
It is. It's not gonna. There's not a ton of time.
But you know what? You said something funny yesterday. Just kind of, oh, by the way, duh. But it's really funny though. A lot of entrances. So I wonder how many gates they'll have open. All of them?
It's got to be all of them, right? This isn't.
Oh, it's 90K. Yeah, right.
I would say it's sold out. It's not like the state championship games. You get what 10, 20,000 maybe.
Yeah.
So they only open half the gates, maybe a couple of them. It's 90,000. They have to open all of them.
Yeah, 3 p.m.
This is we're a full football crowd here. So
And guess what?
What?
I don't have to go anywhere near the stadium. I'm going right to the airport.
My man.
Aeropuerto. So those buses are leaving the stadium to go to the airport, though.
Yeah.
At like 12:10, so they'll be out of the way.
Oh yeah,
as
they'll
well.
be clear. They'll be clear. You'll be all right.
Shane, what do you like to say when we can go to break?
Clear.
Clear.
We've got another friend on the Warhorse hotline.
We're never going to get through the game.
You gonna Winnie?
No, I can't. No.
Okay. We've got Jay wants to talk about game week. What's up, Jay?
It's game week, baby.
Oh, here he is. What's up, buddy?
It is game week.
How we feeling?
It's game day eve.
How we feeling?
You ready?
Yeah. I mean, ready something gonna be for guys not playing.
Man, you are.
I can say Calic Manis. I mean, that's all. Hey, that's getting ready
That's
for
as
me.
ready as you're gonna be.
Yeah.
You on the call, man. We need you to bring some energy. Don't be up.
Oh, listen. That's easy. If I get to be a homer and still talk football, that's in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, man. So let me say this, man. I'm not excited. I'm calm. You feel me? And
Okay.
it's a good calm. We got some things happening that resemble winning football. You feel me? We got some hot heads on the team. Got some guys that live a little reckless. You know what I'm saying? You hear the whisper. Now, I don't condone it. Watch your mouth. I don't condone nothing going on down there. But what I'm saying is, got some people with reckless behavior. So whatever the other brother got going. You feel?
Yeah, I mean, so
and then you say they chippy, where the defense and the offense, you can feel it being chippy, like the offense saying we're gonna get them tomorrow. See, that's some good stuff. You feel me? That makes me feel as if these gentlemen have a chip on their shoulder, man. Like they gonna go out there and be like, nah, I heard y'all talking all summer long. I listened to y'all say what y'all said. I watch y'all.
you know what I think bugs them the most, and I appreciate the call, Jay. I think the thing that bugs this team the most, they won't say it out loud, but people tell the story like it's just been bludgeonings in this series, and the last 3 games have come down to 1 score.
Yeah.
So I think.
I mean, isn't the only bludgeoning in this series recently Nebraska doing the bludgeoning?
Oh, in 18? Well, there's the COVID year where that was not good.
Yeah, you're right.
How many people did Minnesota bring? 50?
Not a lot. Not a lot. Like half their roster was on COVID protocol.
And then that was following the year where PJ Fleck basically said, we know what they're doing. This is how they line up. This is what's going to happen. And so we kind of have it in our mind that it's just tail kicking after tail kicking. Now, they're racking up W's.
But they're pretty
But
close.
they are 1-score games.
Well, and there's, again, we probably aren't going to get to this day. Maybe we'll get to it tomorrow. But that's part of the reason, like, I don't think Nebraska's getting blown out.
Yeah.
Our friend Nick Baugh kind of
indicated. His feel. I listening to it.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see where he's coming from. I don't think it was outlandish.
I don't think it was outlandish either.
But it's a big number.
That's kind of why I want to talk about it.
7.5 is a big number.
For the way these teams have played each other, yeah, it's up there.
Yeah.
Let's get to out of breath Brian real quick before we continue our game that we're not going to get through today, but that's okay. Out of breath Brian, what do you got?
What's going on, fellas?
What's up, man?
What's up, my resident Cowboy fan?
Hey, speaking of that, man, God, being a Cowboy fan, man, why they got to sit and have us on TV all day long talking about that Prescott and the season ain't started? Jeez, man. Now they asking who would you rather have, Dak Prescott or Matt Stafford? Come on, man.
Already sowing seeds of discontent, huh, B?
Well, at least they took care of the Raiders.
The punishment of being a fan of a flagship team. Nah, they showed them on TV all day long, the same question over and over again. Put a few words around here and there to make it sound like a new question. It's not. Okay, now.
Wow.
Hey, had fun at my son freshman football game last night.
How'd they do?
It went down. They played Westview.
Yeah.
I like those Boise State colors that they got over there. It was all right.
I do like Westview's color scheme.
Yes, the coach almost cost the Burke freshman team the game. Like a minute was left. They decided 25. Westview had 2 timeouts left. He made them use them, and then ran the ball on third down. And you can always count on young kids to fumble the ball right there inside 25. And they with a minute left, they stopped to get into the end zone. But it was a pretty good game, stuff like that. But hey, I really want to talk. Hey, my prediction for the game tomorrow, I kind of feel like it will come down to the wire, and it's going in the end. And the person who's going to win it is whoever's going to be the place kicker. I think they're going to win by 2 or 3 points tomorrow.
Okay,
so you're riding with our guy Tristan.
Boy, is he hoping. So I appreciate the call, but the cool thing about that is secretly, like I'm hoping for Nebraska to be close late and figure it out. Because
absolutely,
if they get over that emotional hurdle of the whole stupid 1-score game thing,
that'll be huge.
Could be magic. And
especially like the perfect scenario for me is if they get punched in the mouth early.
Where Coach Rhule smiling after they
he's smiling because they're down 17-0.
He's like, "Oh man, are you kidding me? Like I spoke this into existence."
Right.
I'll be looking at Greg Sharp like
he'll be kicking himself, but he will be smiling.
Like, man, I'm out on Coach Rhule.
Quit manifesting touchdowns for the other team.
A forecaster.
No, if they get punched in the mouth a little bit, excuse me. Hopefully not 17-0, but like 7-10, something like that.
Yeah.
They come back. It's close late. Let's say they fall behind late and then get the win. That's like the perfect recipe for me because it exercises a lot of demons, I feel like.
So I won't get super specific, although I like that. I just want to say I hope they put themselves in a position where they have to use the 4-minute offense.
Yeah.
How many times has he talked about?
So does Rhule, apparently.
How many times has he talked about the 4-minute offense?
Constantly.
They've done it till the cows come home, right?
Absolutely.
So situationally, did you catch yesterday? He says little things like, hey, catching a ball with 1 foot out of bounds, so that kick has gone out of bounds, right? He said special teams isn't so much about ability. It's about being able to make quick decisions under pressure. You think they don't practice things like that?
I think they have practiced.
Hey, straddle the line.
Everything.
Make sure 1 foot's out of bounds so we can get that
extra 20 yards, 15 yards,
or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Or my man saying, no, we're gonna play special teams. We're returning everything.
Yeah, we don't believe in fair catching kickoffs.
Kid, do you know like what that did something to my spirit? I was like,
you mean the guy that declined a penalty to have the team re-kick?
Yes.
So his kid could take it back to the house? You mean that guy wants to play special teams? That's shocking to me.
Coach Lamanchi's like, you better be right.
Yeah, you were right.
I rolled the dice.
You were right.
I told you, man. And if they kicked it out of bounds, I was going to tell them to kick it again.
All right. Real quick here.
We got 50 seconds.
One each. I want a now or never.
Are we skipping an hour never?
Well, listen, I want to get one of each in at least today. I don't think we're going to. Well, fine. Let's do another.
No, we could do now or never.
Let's do one now or never.
Because mine's going to surprise you.
Who's that?
Luke Reimer.
Oh. Why?
Because I think he's the poster child for having to transition with a new staff, kind of gradually becoming all in when he liked kind of what was going on.
Yeah.
He's never been fully healthy.
Okay.
But we keep heaping all these expectations on him.
Right.
And he's embraced them going forward. Like he doesn't bat an eye.
Yeah.
Right. Got a lot of talent, still learning to play the position, gets a new vantage point from his coach. I think right now for Luke Reimer, it's now or never.
It's going to be right now for Brian Christopherson here on Lulla and Benning coming up next.
We will be back in 4 minutes. We will be back in 3 minutes. We will be back in 2 minutes. We will be back in 1 minute. We will be back in 30 seconds. Hurrdat Sports presents The Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla. Here is Husker 24/7 senior writer, Brian Christopherson.
Yeah, it'll be a little bit of a circus act.
Brian Christopherson.
Oh, I mean, that's pretty interesting.
Brian Christopherson.
I kind of enjoy that.
Here is Brian Christopherson.
Welcome back to the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla here on a Wednesday, the day before Nebraska kicks off their football season. It's volleyball day in Nebraska, and we are joined now by our friend Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7, BC, how you feeling today?
Not too bad. How can you not be in a pretty good mood today?
We're kind of jazzed up over here. We got some energy flowing.
Well, that's good. I do too. About to hit the road.
I even let you get away with hitting me with a V up, man. I thought that was pretty sneaky.
I felt bad immediately after I sent that. I was like, that's not right to do to a man. But
I'm a huge Tyson Terry is pretty complete, man. I'm a big fan. He had a heck of a game, and it only cost me $9.19 to watch. So hey,
you know that I am an Omaha North grad.
Yeah,
and so I have my connection there, but I am impartial as the season goes on and as how it will play out in that game and everything. So don't accuse me of favoritism when it comes to evaluating the actual performance.
No, it's all good. But I kind of chuckled, man. It's in typical BC fashion. You kind of just snuck that in
under the radar a little
He's
bit.
like hashtag VO. BC, we're kind of playing this game. It is show now. Oh, show and it will tell.
Okay.
Now or never. Or didn't see that coming. So we asked Shafe yesterday. I let him pick one category. He picked a player. He picked now or never. Do you know who he put in that category?
No.
Gabe Ervin. I felt like that was I put Gabe Ervin in my show and it will tell as kind of a baseline. Yeah. And you can put any three in any category, but he picked that one and picked Gabe. You know he's kind of been on that, got to prove it. So I'll let you pick a category and then put any player you want in that category. So show and it will tell as in how the season will go. You can't take Jeff Sims.
Those guys are kind of like the barometers.
Okay.
Now or never, like it's nut cutting time. Mm-hmm. Or didn't see that coming. And it could be to the good or to the bad.
Yeah, we can work our way through a few of them. I'd say now or never. I would like the category now or never for 200.
Okay. The question is the player that you would first put into this category of needing to perform immediately.
I gave myself an easy one. It's Bryce Benhart.
Good one.
Could be Corcoran either.
Ravi's mad. You took two of his three.
You just sniped two of my three now or never.
I'll stick with Benhart then.
Can you believe I didn't take either one of those two? I'm mad at myself now. Go ahead, B.
Well, I mean, this is a guy who's been a starter for, I think, has it been 2 years he started? And it's been choppy. I mean, there's no other way around it. But I do think there's a belief we're going to see his best football in part because of the work they've done off the field and Corey Campbell. And I think the nutrition work deserves some credit there. Now we'll see what that translates to. But you know, a big part of the talk with the offensive linemen and those tackles has been just improved range of motion, how they've improved their flexibility and just their movement, I think laterally in protection. So I don't think this is an offensive line that you want to have protect your quarterback throwing it 45 times a game. But I do think they can improve in the pass pro, and it sounds like they did actually do okay in that during fall camp. And Benhart is a guy that I have an open mind about going in this season. Some people don't, that will message me. They're decided the story's written on him. I'm not going to be that way because I think this coaching staff sees him in a different light, and they've been honest about their word where it's like, hey, this is a blank page with us. It's a new start, and he's a perfect example of that.
Are you surprised that neither one of them have come up much in pressers?
Not necessarily.
Is that just kind of one of those things where you assume they're doing a good job? Because it hasn't come up.
It's one of those things where people don't know what to write about it is what some of it is. It's just like, okay, you get a quote or two about, yeah, they're making strides and stuff, and no one knows where to take it with the offensive line sometimes. I think that's part of it. And it's just sort of, with the O-line, it's been known more than any other position group who the starting five was going to be since the spring, really. I mean, Teddy Prohaska, of course, was the wild card whether he'd be healthy, and he just finally got on the practice field, so he hasn't really been in that equation. But if you take him out of it, it's the five we thought it was going to be probably back in April. So I think that's part of it. There hasn't been as much mystery to who the guys are going to be. And also, it's just like, all right, let's see a couple of games, and then we'll get to talking and writing more about have they actually improved or haven't they. But as far as if Nebraska takes a step as a team in a category like the one you're giving me, I think it comes to those tackles more than anybody.
Yeah, BC, I wonder how much this factored into that for you, because as I kind of said under my breath, both of those guys, Corcoran and Benhart, were both in my now or never category. And part of the reason for me was because of the perceived ability level, especially coming out of high school, right? These are both high-level recruits. I think Benhart was like a top 70 or top 50 guy, depending on where you looked. Corcoran was a top like 120 guy on 24/7. These were high-end guys with incredible offers that have not really been what you would expect out of those types of guys. How much did the talent level factor into you putting them in those categories?
Yeah, I mean, you'd love to start seeing Nebraska when they have these guys who, and I don't think this coaching staff gets overly concerned about what their stars were. I know they don't, but you'd love to see them. Okay, this guy was actually a 4-star, and we start to see some of those guys play to it, and they develop into that type of player. And I feel like too often, especially in the trenches in the last few years, guys have sort of stayed in place, and sometimes we've seen like a few games where it like looks pretty good for a lineman, and then a year later we're still talking about him in sort of the same way as we were. And so that's where I think you really want to see a difference with this coaching staff. With those high-end guys, they actually develop them to be kind of meet that expectation, and just you can tell that they're getting better year to year. And I know this coaching staff doesn't want to look in the past, and I understand that completely. It's kind of what we do in the long off season. So it's awesome now that we actually get these games in front of us to actually, okay, there is development here or there's not. And we're actually talking about what's right in front of our eyes instead of what happened 2 years ago. So, and that it's good for the players too, that we're about to take this step beyond questions about 2021 sometimes popping up or whatever year you choose.
And our latest edition of You Don't Say could definitely see that coming. Coach Rhule lets us know he embraces everything about being on the road, the camaraderie, the getting up, the sleeping in a hotel bed. You could just finally see for the first time, maybe in that presser, kind of some like that was genuine, right? Like he really enjoys being on the road. I told Robbie tomorrow I was going to get into why I think that's kind of a key. This team seems like it would be very fitting to open up the season away from the friendly confines. Is that a stretch?
No, I don't think so. And it was genuine from him. It was also like kind of a bit of like football stand-up that was going on. He had kind of a smile on his face. Yeah. He was talking about getting into the crappy locker room, and then the guy on the field who stops you and has to, make you show him his press pass. And like he really set the scene very well with all that. But I think you're right, Damon. I think for this team, and sort of the bonding that they've tried to have take shape, through staying at Selleck and all that stuff and all the different exercises they've done in that front. This is sort of like the perfect next step to that is like, okay, let's start this season where you have to go somewhere new. You do that thing where you go to the movie the night before and you're all in it together. You feel like everybody around you on the streets you're walking is against you. I think that's perfect for this team and sort of, the setup they've tried to get going with the, it's about us. It's about these guys next to you and that chemistry and everything. And you got to have that more than ever on the road. So it is kind of the perfect setup. I also do think occasionally there have been times, and again, I'm talking about the past, I guess, but where Nebraska can play tight because they know how much when they're at home, because they know how much this fan base and everybody cares about it, and you can kind of feel the pressure over the stadium when something doesn't go right. So maybe it's good to not start there. You get a little runway into that playing elsewhere.
BC, Damon and I were talking a little bit about how we kind of hoped this game would go in terms of what would be the ideal outcome for Nebraska outside of obviously getting a win in terms of how the game actually plays out. Have you thought at all about that? And if you have, what are some of the things you would be looking for in an ideal first game of the Matt Rhule era?
One of the main things is a running game where even if the unimpressive runs are they're giving you something, like they're giving you 3 yards, they're giving you a 2nd and 6 or whatever, as opposed to some of this, which has been the part of the past too, is playing like 2nd and 10, 2nd and 9. You're losing 2 yards. There's just been too many negative plays. So even the plays where it's sort of like you're watching at home and you're like, okay, that was not much. I'm going up to get some chip dip. Like you still come back and it's 3rd down and 3 as opposed to
warm up the queso.
Yeah. So I think that to me a big part of this game is the unremarkable plays, and if they are effective for who they're most effective for, which side they are. And then there's going to be, I feel like this game could be decided by there's like that one play where it's 3rd and 5 or something, and maybe it's a check down or it's some short pass, and I don't know which side's going to make it, which team, but a guy in space is going to make that play where he makes someone miss and he turns what should have been nothing into about 50 yards. And I feel like 1 or 2 plays like that is going to flip this game. I really expect it's going to be within a score. I'd kind of be surprised if it's not. I think Minnesota, as stout as they are, has questions almost as much as Nebraska. And some national people I've heard talk about this game are a little distracted and haven't noticed that, but I think they have question marks too. So I really think it's a toss-up game. I also think Nebraska might not be playing Minnesota at the worst time. Fleck has done a really nice job in that program. I'm not going to badmouth them at all, but if you look at their track record, they are a team that struggles a little bit in early games. They've pulled some of them out against lesser talent and stuff. But it makes you wonder if Nebraska, maybe they're finding them at the right spot where they have a little more talent than some of those teams they've played in the past in August, September games, and they take advantage of that. But that was a long-winded answer to your question. To me, it's the unremarkable plays and making them efficient and which team does it the best.
See, I picked these 3 things because I haven't seen them happen with each of the particular groups I'm going to ask about. Okay. Which one of these things is the hardest for you to envision actually happening? A meaningful punt return for Nebraska. Jeff Sims being a smooth operator and quarterback design run game, or the offensive line playing at an efficient level? Which one of those is the hardest for you to envision actually happening?
Honestly, those are all pretty even to me, but the offensive line at an efficient level is probably my answer. And it's not because I don't believe in them or that they can, or I'm giving them a shot to be different, because I think they could be. But I am a little beaten down by the last few years of hearing, this is improved and that's improved. And then you get to the games and they're sort of stuck in the mud. And I do think this could be a slog of a game that's going to test Nebraska's patience. And it's going to test those guys' patience too. If it's a type of game where it's not going easy and, you feel like you're kind of beating your head against the wall, how are they going to actually respond to that in game action? So those are all pretty good questions. I kind of have a feeling Billy Kemp's going to do something. That's why I wouldn't answer that one. I think he might get loose on a punt return. And I don't know. Jeff Sims, I have no idea how that's going to go. I think
Me neither, but we sure seem to be assuming that he's going to pull this off.
Yeah. And
there's been no history really of this being a thing, but we've convinced her. I don't know if it's just because he's a black quarterback or not, but I'm telling you, like, it hasn't been a thing so far.
I don't know what it is. But
At his time at Georgia Tech, I'm not saying in fall camp in Nebraska.
Yeah, I think with Sims, you know, I do think he's going to have to make a couple plays with his feet where he spins out of something and he runs for a big play, and I think he's got that possibility. So I'm interested how much he actually wants to run, because I go back to Big Ten media days when you know, he was talking about his traits and he's like, I'm a passer first, you know, and he really stressed that. And so, and I don't mind that mindset at all, but sometimes you see guys who have that mindset. It's actually like they kind of want to prove it whenever there's an opportunity to let it go. And so I'll be curious, like if when those plays are there or like how quick he is to run or how much he wants to hold on and say, no, I'm going to make a play with my arm here. So that'll be an interesting balancing act. But I got the sense through your response there, Damon, that you would have picked the quarterback one.
Of the things I have the hardest time envisioning, the easiest for me would be the offensive line.
Okay.
But do you know why? Let me just stay right there for a second. And maybe I'm just seeing what I want to see, but I could see some two-back downhill run game, where it's fullback dive, maybe some trap, maybe like power or something like that, where it's so rare these days to see downhill two-back run game. It's sometimes hard for defenses to get their mind around because they're like, I can't make a living doing this. But it really lathers up the O-line, and it's relatively easy to do.
Yeah.
Just commit to running the ball downhill. Even if no matter, so that's probably the one I could see the most. I'd put that one last. I think the punt return is first because it would be so rare for Nebraska to do. I can't. They've been abysmal. I mean, like in the last 10th of college football, multiple years in terms of punt returns.
Right.
Like that would be the hardest one for me to see, I think.
I was really interested yesterday when I asked about kickoffs and decision making.
Wasn't that great?
When he said there ain't going to be any fair catching, and
he said we're going to play special teams. I loved it.
I did too. But I'll be honest, I've been kind of a proponent of I don't. There's been studies I've read and stuff about just catching it, taking on the 25 and the advantage of it. And I've kind of been in that camp. So I admit I'm maybe on the other side of the fence where sometimes I'd wave my hand and just take it on the 25 as opposed to the 17. But I kind of like the aggressive nature. It's building within your team and that sort of you taking that, even just that thing, and saying, no, we're playing football on this play and we'll make something happen and try to turn a game around. So they are going to be aggressive on special teams. And that's why I think a big deal too is I think they'll try to get a punt. You know, they're going to try to block a punt early in the season. And that sounds captain obvious, but the feeling is if they can get to one or get close, it is going to open up the opportunity maybe in the return game too, in the game or later on in this season.
It's interesting because remember way back when this was buried in the offseason, like February, he said, we want to block punts.
Yep. He made a big deal about it.
That was like a while ago. So you may be onto something.
So whether there's a return or not, I don't know, but I do think they're going to go hard after some, maybe it's a block punt, you know, or something like that, or they get a hand on one, but that's going to be a big deal.
BC, as we get to our kind of last few minutes with you here, I'm going to ask you for two things. I've been asking everybody this week. I want to get a season prediction from you, a win-loss record, and a prediction for the game tomorrow.
Okay. I've always cheated a little bit on the season prediction, and I count a bowl game. I think they will make a bowl game, and I think they'll go 7-6. So that allows me to say they could go 7-5 or 6-6, but 7-6.
Thought it through.
Yeah. This is what I do. I mean, I have all day to think about this. That was 2 minutes of my day while getting coffee. I thought of that concept, but 7-6 final record in year one. And I always in the first game stick to what I said, like in the spring or summer when you're kind of doing these exercises where you go through, and I don't like to change my first game prediction the week of. And I'm giving Minnesota the slight edge, 23-20, because I've always had Nebraska splitting those first two on the road. I think they get next week, but I think this game is much more a toss-up than it is like a 7.5 point spread, if that makes sense. Like I really go back to what I said about Minnesota's question marks. I think this game can go either way.
So BC, it's not like I'm smarter than the staff, but I've been hoping for the last 2 weeks we don't fall into this whole Minnesota just wants to tank it at Nebraska, because I don't think that's what happens this year with Minnesota, even though that's their identity. New OC, you got a co-collab. You have a run game guy, a pass game guy. Their best 3 or 4 players play outside the numbers, not named Alec Manis. So you got to hope that Nebraska is fully prepared as well, because I could see Minnesota throwing the ball a fair amount, and I thought that for a while.
Yeah, I absolutely do think that too, because talking with Ryan Burns, our guy who covers them up in Minnesota, that everything he's written about strengths and exciting points for them deals with what you're saying. It's a perimeter guys, it's additions they've got from the portal and things of that nature. And so I fully expect them to try to get some of those guys rolling right away. And, it's going to be a test for, this is a game where you want to see Quentin Newsom's been around a long time, and he's a talented player. And it's I think this can be the year. I know he thinks that he is that shutdown guy. And Nebraska's had a nice string of corners where they kind of take that road into being, okay, he's a pretty good player, and then he becomes pretty dynamic. I thought Cam Taylor-Britt as a corner kind of became that near the end of his career, and obviously he's doing it in the league. And before him, there's been guys. So I think this is his turn.
Is it weird that Hartzog has had a quiet camp?
I don't know if it is. I always relate it to simple things. Some guys are more quotable than others. I really do. I feel like that's how stuff gets out sometimes, because it Deshaun Singleton came up there, and you remember Rhule said about Singleton, he sat with him 3 minutes in his office. He's like, man, this guy, is he my favorite player now or something like that? Yeah. I understand that completely, because Singleton's like that. He got up front, and I didn't know much about him, and he's talking, and it's man, I love this guy. He's Singleton had the quote, "I'm not a follower, but I know who to follow." And I was like, geez, that was a good turn of phrase. And so you end up writing about those guys. But how Singleton and Omar Brown do to me against those weapons Minnesota has in that safety spot, and whether they hold up and don't have that brain fart, that's going to be as big a deal as anything.
Got to be able to tackle on the back end.
Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7 BC. We appreciate your time as always. We will talk to you again next week.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, BC. See you tomorrow.
Coming up next, Andy Kendeigh from KETV here on Benning and Lulla.
We will be back in 5 minutes. We will be back in 4 minutes. will be back in 3 minutes. We will be back in 2 minutes. We will be back in 1 minute. We will be back in 30 seconds. Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
I want to welcome some of our new friends to the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla, and some of those new friends are over at Rockbrook Camera. They are a couple different locations. Obviously, they've got the one in Omaha at 168th and West Center. They've also got one in Lincoln at 70th and Pioneer. You can also shop online at rockbrookcamera.com. And guess what? You get free shipping on orders over $199. The great thing about Rockbrook Camera, though, is they're not just trying to sell you a camera. They're trying to help you become the best photographer you can be for whatever your goals are. They're not just going to sell you
Team Eric Francis.
That's one of our guys right there. They're not just going to sell you the most expensive camera. They're going to try and find the right camera for your photography goals. They're going to support you after you purchase your stuff from them. They've got classes and all of that. Up-to-date technology with things like mirrorless cameras as well. Plus, they have a couple different ways you can get in the game. You can trade in your old gear when you're ready to upgrade, or they also have an extensive rental department if you just need something or want to try something out. Again, that's Rockbrook Camera, Omaha, Lincoln, and online at rockbrookcamera.com. Join us now, another friend of the show.
Are we friends, Andy?
Andy Kendeigh, are we friends?
Oh my God, DB. Hey, first of all, DB, thank you so much for making Sunday happen for us. Damon, of course, does his segments on KTV. But yeah, what a weekend for you, my friend. My daughter. I'm going to throw in a little daughter talk. So Sammy got the plum assignment at WTV Westside High School to do tackle talk, and Caleb Benning is their player of the week. So good. They do a little video every week to get them hyped. They even got a nice system over Westside. So Sammy's in charge of tackle talk, or at least part of the crew that produces that thing. That's pretty slick product for high school. Sure.
Yeah, it's been a crazy week. So apparently you have plans tonight to eat, and I didn't get an invite. Is that what I'm hearing, or how's that going to work?
Well, we actually were just. Are you in? Yeah, we'll see you there. We don't even know where we're going to eat. We were just discussing that, BB. All options are open. I just want to find a spot in Minneapolis where we can A, eat some decent food on the company dime, and B, watch the volleyball game. So let's go. If you have any ideas, let me know.
Yeah,
it's relatively affordable. We can't break the bank. But yeah, let's get together tonight in Minneapolis.
Yeah, our well, more your mutual friend of you and Ravi, but Gas Can dropped that last night during Big Red Wrap Up, and I was like, but he's got the fam coming up, so he's kind of outro, but. Apparently, like, you just leave me out. I mean, we're supposed to be OGs.
No. Let me just say this. I didn't even get the invite. The three guys were talking about going for steaks. Steaks above our pay grade.
So I'm guessing it's Robin and Steve Sipple.
Oh yeah. It's Robin and Steven M. Sipple.
Steve Sip's not spending any money.
No, he's going to like Applebee's.
Oh no. He's going along for the ride. I'll tell you this, Sean. God bless him. Sean's bringing his family on the road trip, so the wife and kids are coming. And that's always like a slippery slope because you got 1 foot in the family thing and 1 foot in the work thing. It is really tough to juggle if you've ever done that before. It is a tough dual, 2 dual jobs at the same time. Ooh, that's a tough assignment right there.
Yeah, that'll never happen for me. I'm just saying. I seldom use never. That'll never happen.
Yeah, I'm like, guys, there's work time and there's just family time. I can't cross the two. So.
Which primarily has to do with the fact my family barely likes me, so I'll work alone. Hey, so AK, like, are you buying this intrigue, this mystique that this Minnesota team is 7.5 points better than Nebraska? I just get the sense we're misremembering how this series has gone recently.
No question, but I will say that here are my concerns, and TJ Fleck has been so good and consistent, and you can think what you want about the guy, but the guy's a coach coming off back-to-back 9-win seasons and 2 wins in bowl games. I mean, that's pretty good, and he's got it going. And yeah, they got to replace Abraham, and they got to replace Tanner Morgan. But Josh Manis is a decent quarterback, as we saw last year in Lincoln. So your typical get 3 yards and be satisfied, and then on 3rd and 3 do a little bootleg and get your 4 yards and move the chain. 7.5 is a bunch. That half is the key. But I did read one of the books I was looking at when I was trying to figure out what was going to happen. They said almost 90% of the money on the spread line was on Nebraska. So usually when that happens, you're like,
I know, right? Debbie Downer.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Here are the things. And I know, DB, you touched on this a bunch. Can Nebraska's line hold up? Can Nebraska's line step up to the challenge? Because we know Minnesota's going to bring it on the offensive line. They've got those 300-pound, 280, 290 guys. Can Nebraska stop Minnesota's run game? And can Nebraska score enough points to stay with it? Because I think scoring's going to, how is Nebraska going to score those points? That's my question.
You see this being high scoring?
I do not.
Okay.
I do not at all. And I think Minnesota's going to be able to. And how does Nebraska stop Minnesota's run? The TJ brought the transfer kid in to carry the load. Obviously, we know about their wide receivers. I think they're going to try to run it at this 3-3-5 and see if there's pockets in the middle. Can Nebraska stop their run, and can Nebraska run the football? And I think there's question marks at wide receiver for Nebraska, and but that's why it's so intriguing, right? Jeff Sims. I think they're going to have to lean on Jeff Sims run a little more than I think that they would originally would have liked to. But if that's the way to do it to win games, you got to do it. Now, I don't think Sims is going to run 20 times in the game. I don't think we're going that far. But I think he's going to be using his legs more than I first anticipated.
Andy, I'm curious, you brought up Jeff Sims there, and we've been talking a lot about what we kind of expect from him versus what we saw at Georgia Tech. Are you a believer that he can kind of be a version of himself that he's never really been before in order for Nebraska to be successful on offense? Or does he even have to be?
Well, I think he has to be. And I think he's got to take care of football. That's priority number one. I mean, if his turnover issues continue, obviously it's going to be a long year. I think if Jeff Sims, though, is your leading rusher for Nebraska this year, you're not having the season you want to have. So,
good point.
I mean, I think Nebraska's going to need to get some balance from the run game, whether that's Gabe Ervin or if it's by committee. Now, Ervin said the other day he'd like to be the bell cow. Of course he would. Is he capable of being that guy? Well, or is the offensive line capable of making him that guy? I think is the better question. And I think that's, and then what is quote unquote bell cow in 2023? Is it 15 carries? Is it 18 carries? Is it 20? I'd be surprised if it's more, if you're setting the over under on Gabe Ervin carries, and I said at 16.5, you taking the over for Thursday? I don't know with the other options you have with Ravier Johnson and Anthony Grant.
Man, 450 carries between the three for the season seems about right for me.
Yeah, right. And that's the intriguing thing. And then
right, because that's like 200, 120, and 130.
Yeah. Do you think you're going to get there?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
But I do think they'll need 3 or 4.
Yeah. I agree with that. And here's the other thing, DB, and you guys know, who's going to catch the passes? Who's gonna be that guy on third down that you can go to and be your reliable third down back? Is Billy Camp? Obviously, that's probably the obvious answer. How much is Constantine Fedoni going to play into it? I think Fedoni has obviously all the tools. Are they going to utilize him as such? And is he going to be the breakout star? I think everybody around here believes he can be. And I think because of the lack of depth at wide receiver, they'll have to lean on Borkature and Fedoni and Bonner a little more than maybe they would have otherwise. And that's no knock on the receivers. They just got some guys that are a little bit untested once you get past the Billy Kemp of the world, and who knows what's going to happen with Marcus Washington moving forward. Whether he can get back to where he was, where we were talking about him in the offseason. So I think it's an interesting. That's why this game is so fascinating, because nobody knows what's going to happen on Thursday. I think a lot of people think they know, but really once you kick it off, man, there's just no telling what's going to happen.
That's our friend Andy Kendeigh from KETV. Andy, great stuff as always. Safe travels up to Minnesota.
Sounds good, so TV. I'll text you later, my friend.
All right, thanks, buddy. Good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you too, man.
That's Andy Kendeigh from KETV. Coming up next, we're going to get back into our categories a little bit here.
Okay.
And see where some of these guys fall for Damon Benning and myself. We will be back with more of the show coming up next.
We'll be right back in 4 minutes. be right back in 3 minutes. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. We'll be right back in 1 minute. We'll be right back in 30 seconds. Hurrdat Sports presents The Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
Welcome back to the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
We're gonna figure that out.
Yeah, we're working on it. It's like a chick at this point. I don't even know. Hey, yeah, we're working on it. You're in my head about it now. Why don't you tell us about our friends?
Know what?
Why don't you tell us about our friends at Dingman so I can recover?
They're
here.
really good friends with Shane too, because I don't know if you know this, but he has a thing for Darcy. But not to make it all awkward, just make sure you go see Dingman's. They got 4 great locations, family owned and operated for over 25 years. I didn't mean to wreck you. It's okay. It's okay. Her husband doesn't mind. He probably chuckles at you. He's like that little guy. It's okay, Shane. But hey, listen, they work on all types of makes and models. That's the thing. And don't be discouraged. Like if you see cars out front waiting to be worked on, that's okay. Like they'll get you taken care of. And they do take walk-ins. Extremely friendly. Really good customer service. So visit Dingman's. He's a child. He's such a flipping child.
All right, I've regained my composure a little bit.
You good?
I think I'm all right.
All right.
I'm not like Matthew McConaughey, all right, but I'm okay.
Well played.
Thank you.
Very quick.
You know, I try sometimes.
Do you realize? Do people realize? And I get it. Like I'm the last person as a coach that should be uttering this, but there seems to be this thought process about the 3-3-5 that it's vulnerable to blank. right?
Yeah, and the blank is usually power run.
Right.
Yeah.
Shane, did Minnesota run the ball pretty well last year?
Yes.
Trey Potts, Mo Ibrahim,
They've run the ball
et
pretty
cetera,
well
et cetera.
Yeah.
for quite a while.
Shane, in the bowl game last year, because Tony White's defenses have stopped the run historically. I told the story how when he came to Westside, the first thing he said was, got to be tough and you got to be able to tackle. And he says he didn't want to get too much into philosophy at that time, but the number one thing they want to do is stop the run. Like he said that. And then he's also waxed poetic about, statistically speaking, what happens when teams are better against the run than they are sacks historically, and what that means for the totality of your defense. And he said, given his druthers, he'd rather be good against the run than teams that lead the country in sacks. And he's got data upon data upon data about why that is more of a contributing factor to good defenses. So somebody that does interviews, one of these smart people at 24/7 or On 3 or Inside Nebraska with Rivals, my man Zach Carpenter, ask him about that, because he's got a lot of statistical data to back that up. How he'll take stopping the run versus getting QB sacks. I say all that to say, Minnesota last year in the bowl game, and I'm not a transitive property guy, but that Minnesota team ran the ball pretty well.
Yes, they did.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, they went 33 for 77 in the bowl game,
which is not good.
33 carries for 77 yards.
Yeah, you see that at Indy?
Yeah,
How'd you know that?
Yeah, you see that? I saw that.
Well, and so the biggest thing,
by the way, my man is just shedding pounds.
Oh man, I mean, there's
yeah. Well, yeah, it's been hot out there,
bro. And so I'm trying to talk the other day, and it's like talking to coach. Hey man, I gotta call you back. I gotta get a coach's workout in.
I'm done. Let's go. Let's go.
Man, I gotta go. I was like, next time, don't answer.
You know
what I mean? Would you rather have somebody not answer before they rush you off the phone?
And I'm gonna get there in a bad humor. Period.
I actually appreciate when like people are busy.
Oh, you're never team DB. That's fine.
Whatever. I'm TB more than most people. Let's be honest here.
You got that right. When you got a friend.
I appreciate, like, whenever you answer the phone, I feel honored.
Well, I'm pot committed now.
Well, yeah, but in general, because you're a super busy dude, you're always running around all over the place, and so when busy people answer the phone, I appreciate it because I know they're busy.
Okay, so
like when I answer the phone, it doesn't mean that much because
so
because
you have permission to come off the top rope. If I ever answer the phone and I'm talking to somebody else and I say, "Oh, hold on," don't do that. That is an absolute pet peeve. I always tell people, hey, you don't have to answer. You can finish what you're doing and wait.
So that's a little different to me.
Okay.
Then
so it's not just the answering. It's
right. It's answering and paying attention. Right. If you're answering and be like, hey, hold on a second.
Why you have to be so particular? And I have to pay attention.
Yeah, exactly. Just picking up the phone doesn't do a lot for me.
Yeah.
No, but if somebody's busy and they answer the phone, I appreciate that.
Yeah. My 13-year-old bats about 126.
Answering the phone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And every time I go in his room, it's right next to him.
Yeah.
So, and he's the king of, I don't get missed calls. What are you talking about?
I mean, does he have an Android too? Because that might be.
No, I'm the only one in my family, thank you very much, that is not on Apple products. You're such a hater. You shill. They make billions upon billions of dollars, and you want me to be part of the thing that ruined mankind, Apple.
You can do,
or Quince, for those of you playing at home.
You can do whatever you would like with your phone.
You like.
All right, Ti. But
yeah.
If your kid had an Android product and he was like, I don't get missed calls, I'd believe him. He's got an Apple product. He's like, I don't get missed calls. I don't buy it. I am a hater.
Back to categories.
Let's get to our categories here. And we're going to do this in place of our game because I want to get.
No, we have to do the game.
Why?
Didn't you tell me we had to do it?
No, there's
names. You told me what to do.
Categories is the game now.
Okay,
so we're all right.
We're good. Call an audible.
Yeah, I did.
Check. Pink 37.
I like this better than the game I had planned, so we're gonna keep doing this.
Check Oppo.
This feels like a game. It's fine. So we have done a show and it will tell. We've done a now or never, which BC stole 2 of mine. Thanks a lot, BC.
Dude, he didn't hesitate.
No. And so we've got the only one we haven't even touched on yet is didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
So let's start there, and we'll see how far we get.
Okay.
You want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
I'll take the first one.
All right, let's go.
Didn't see that coming.
Good or bad? Is it good or bad? The first
to
one?
the good.
Okay.
Give me Luke Lindenmeyer.
Okay. You were on him yesterday?
I've been on.
You like that tight end group?
Yep. And he had a good offseason. They liked him last year.
Mm-hmm.
So there's kind of a theme of because I know it's popular to just trash last year's staff and everything that Coach Frost did and stuff, but he is partly responsible for the recruitment of Justin Evans Jenkins, and there are like Blaze Gunn. There's some good in there, right? There's no reason to just completely hate. Another guy that they liked was Lindenmeyer.
Yeah,
and he just pops. He's there. He's a utility guy. They can use him multiple places. He's a big guy, and he's for the program. So I could see him playing an integral role in the red zone. He's a good utility guy where it's like, you'll be scrolling through your program. It's like, is that La Vista? Papillon? Papillon? Papillon?
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting ready to cook some good Cajun gumbo. I gonna go ahead and bust it on down.
All right, water boy.
All right.
So you're on the
I'm on Luke Lindenmeyer.
All right, that's a good one. Do you want my obvious one or kind of my hot take?
So there's an obvious didn't see that. Okay, can I guess?
For where I've been.
Can I guess?
Yeah.
Bonner.
Yeah.
Let's go.
That's the obvious one for me. And he might even be a little too prominent for this category, but he hasn't really produced.
You just hear his name a lot. Listen, he was almost on his way out the door before this staff. Can I just say that out loud? That's right. He was part of that Victor Jones, oh man, these guys can't play. They got to figure out something else different to do. And immediately Coach Rhule was like, wait.
No, we like this guy.
Come here. Let me talk to you for a second. Sit down.
Yeah. Let me speaks with you.
Go close my door. Girls, move over. I know you're drawing over there in the coach's corner. Move over.
Yeah.
This day's going to do some business.
Yeah.
Okay, Daddy. It wasn't exactly like that, but
probably not. But that's okay.
I had lived a little.
Keep on rolling.
You're on Bonner.
I've been on Bonner for a while, and honestly, it wasn't until I started watching South Carolina tape, and I see Jaheim Bell.
It's so funny when that light went on. You're like beating me up over. I don't know if it was a call or we were somewhere, and you're like, I could totally see it.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah, the light went off, and I was like, Nebraska has a guy like this. I don't know if he's as good as Jaheim Bell. Jaheim Bell is super talented, right? Ends up at Florida State this year after transferring, but
out of South Kakalaki.
Janarin Bonner, that dude has a lot of the characteristics that Jaheim Bell does. And if you watch the way they used Bell so much in that offense, and they used him at tight end, they moved him out to receiver, they moved him at fullback. That dude got a ton of touches from a ton of different spots. What have we heard? How many times have we heard positionless offense? How many times have we heard, we're going to run out there with 2 tight ends, we're going to use fullbacks? Well, Bonner can do all the things they're talking about. That's a guy that I've been on for a while. So he's to the good. You want my hot take real quick?
All right, let's go hot take. Are you going to stay in the same category?
Yeah, for didn't see that coming. For
hot take, Ravi.
For the bad.
Uh-oh.
And I got to give this context.
And they're hot.
Billy Kemp.
Okay, talk to me.
Here's why. I think a lot of people are expecting a traditional, number 1 wide receiver out of Billy Kemp. And I don't think he's that guy. He is a slot guy, right? He is your Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, that type of guy. A lot of solid plays.
What's he, about a career 8 a catch?
Yeah.
It's less than 9, right?
A lot of solid plays, not a lot of explosive plays. If that's what you're expecting out of Billy Kemp, I think you're going to be disappointed.
If we're expecting him to just get vertical
chunks,
behind
chunks
defenses.
And vertical plays, that's not who he is. A lot of swing passes, a lot of little 10-yarders.
Okay.
I think that might disappoint some
Is
people.
there a role for a guy that can just move the sticks in this?
Absolutely. You need that guy.
You may be onto something.
More of the Damon Benning Show and Ravi Lulla coming up next.
We'll be right back in 4 minutes. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. We'll be right back in 1 minute. We'll be right back in 30 seconds. Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
Hey, I know there is a ton going on in the state of Nebraska this week, but don't forget about our friends over at the Omaha Storm Chasers, coming off a 4-3 win against Louisville last night. They've got 2 more games this week, tonight and tomorrow, against the Louisville Bats. 6:35 opening pitch on both of those. If you're not down at Memorial Stadium for volleyball day tonight, get out to Werner Park and hang out with the Omaha Storm Chasers. A great time. The weather's been a little bit nicer. Great to just be outside and hang out at a baseball game. Go check out the Omaha Storm Chasers over at Werner Park. Those are our guys over there.
Yeah, those are.
I mean, you're not gonna be able to go because you're gonna be on plate and you're trying to get to Minnesota. But if you're not DB and on the road with the team,
stop.
Get out to Werner Park.
Mitch will be gone too.
Mitch is going up there too. I would
Mitch,
assume.
I shouldn't assume. Mitch, you will be in Minneapolis, correct?
I will. Yes, I will be in Lincoln tonight and Minneapolis tomorrow.
So what time do you leave? Because there's a couple of I shouldn't say good media. There's a lot of good media, but some guys that want to double dip and do both, right? So what time are you flying out?
5:30 a.m. I'm flying out at 5:30 a.m. So
did you get the direct flight?
Sleep is going to be at a premium tonight. Yeah, I'm on a direct flight, so I'll be in there before 7 in the morning.
Oh, nice.
Assuming everything's on time.
That's not too bad.
Knock on wood. Mitch, I get it. This is way off topic, but I'm dying to know. I get the whole Gretna East mindset now, but
okay.
I mean,
let's talk Griffins.
Doesn't Party want to see the Dragons and the Eagles this on Friday, or is that an afterthought? That's
for sure.
Good. That's a sneaky good game. It's
for
Central
sure.
for real, right? Like, I think
look, Coach Mackey's got it
know.
going on there for sure. I think people took notice last week. I mean, that score, I don't care who you're playing.
Right.
I will see Central at some point this year, but I'm not going to miss Gretna East's first ever home game. First ever, hopefully, let's say first ever consecutive 4 quarters of football. They didn't get that.
Wasn't that wild?
They didn't get that.
I've been a part of 2 of those, a next dayer and a big breaker, and then there was a fire and moved fields. Like, those are terrible.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I can't. I mean, to only have to go back out there to play 12 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, it's probably going to be something that they look back on and they remember when they talk about how the toughness of that team was built. They can say, hey, remember back in week 1, we had to drive 10 hours total to play our first game. That's
to get in 4 quarters.
It's not normal for a Metro Conference team. So to get that the first time out is interesting. But I'll be there. I'll be there for Friday night for Gretna East and Buena Vista. And at some other point very soon, I'll catch the Dragons.
Nice.
Mitch, we've been kind of working through this exercise the last day or so where we're categorizing some Nebraska players. And if you don't like it, this was DB's idea.
I've probably done this exercise at some point in the offseason.
Right?
The categories are this: show and it will tell. Basically, guys that if they play well are a barometer of Nebraska's overall success. Now or never. Basically, if it doesn't happen this year, it's probably not happening for this guy. And didn't see that coming. Guys that surprise you either for the good or the bad. Pick any of those 3 categories.
So far, the hottest take is in the didn't see that coming. And Ravi picked Billy Kemp because he doesn't think, if we're expecting some vertical, big play, pass game threat, that he's that guy. So he thinks our expectation level might be off. For instance, in the show and it will tell, I picked Gabe Ervin.
Okay.
Jeff Sims is off the table, so you cannot pick a quarterback in any of those categories. Mitch, where would you like to start?
Yeah, thank you for giving me some examples because my mind was spinning a little bit there with the categories. Only the categories. I like that. So show and it will tell.
Yeah, let's start there.
That's a player who, to me, in my definition of that, is we have questions about them going into the season. Mm-hmm. And if they produce, if they live up to what I think they're capable of, it will tell. And for me, the top guy in that category is Anthony Grant right now, because what we've heard about him in the offseason has generally been that. Like, he's a talented guy, he's a great runner, but they're not seeing everything they need to see, whether it's the spring or here in the later stages of fall camp. So I think if he shows it, it's, we're going to see it. There's the talent's there. He's not going to be a guy who is held down because he just doesn't match up in the Big Ten. So
do you realize he's my pick to lead the team in rushing? All that's been said, I'm sticking with it because I think of the bunch, and maybe Emmett will get there because he's got really, really high upside. Mm-hmm. I still think Grant is the best natural runner.
Yeah, I think the favorite right now would be Ervin or Sims, but probably Ervin. But I don't at all scoff at a pick of Anthony Grant. If Anthony Grant is, I think that's just been the thing that's held him back throughout his career. Whether it's in his previous stops or at times last season, it's him getting the best out of himself. And I guess that's the challenge for everybody on the team. Yeah. But for some, it happens. Like if you're Garrett Nelson last year or throughout his career, that guy is going to find a way to get the best out of himself. He's going to work and work and work until it shows up. But for Anthony Grant, and you can look at guys like, how about a guy like Blaise Gunnarsson on the defensive side?
He is in one of my categories.
Those guys they've got to prove it. So to me, that first category is it's there, but prove it.
See, I put Blaise Gunnarsson
Now or never.
in my now or never.
Mm-hmm.
Because for a couple of years with carryovers over staffs, started with Chins, Bill Bush liked him. These guys like him. He's now put his body in position to do it. And he's got some young horses behind him that they're going to continue to recruit that position. I put Blaise in that now or never because he's relatively new to that position, but he has been anointed as of right now with some thoroughbreds nipping at his heels.
Where would you put Javen Wright? Is he a now or never guy?
Definitely in the now or never. It is very, very crowded. He plays a tweener position. His metabolism hasn't allowed him to slide down really to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
So I would put Javen I'd put Buddha in the now or never.
Yeah, I'm kind of intrigued by him going into this game because he's playing a position. Yeah, he's playing a position that that no coach has seen him as a fit for. And now we haven't heard about, I hope he's past the medical stuff and the injuries, and it's always been a battle. So, and then they're not deep at those two inside linebacker spots. So he may be the first one on the field on tomorrow night. If somebody gets dinged, we're going to see about Nick Henrich. I think he'll be listed on the availability report, which is going to be a really new experience for Nebraska fans and media to get that 2 hours before kickoff, a list with, and this is not a Matt Rhule thing for everybody who maybe missed the news a few days ago. All teams in the Big Ten are going to be required to do this availability report. So, while Matt Rhule is very transparent and open about things. Yeah, coaches are not in love with this thing. I think some of them feel like this is just for the gamblers, and they all coaches by nature like to keep things close, especially right before a game. So, but they're going to put it out, and if it follows the NFL model, they're going to have to be accurate with it. They're not going to be able to play games, or there's going to be some repercussions. I don't know what those are at the Big Ten level, but my point that Nick Henrich is going to be on there somewhere, and I'm interested to see if it's probable, questionable. We'll see. If he doesn't play, to get back to Javen Wright, there's a guy who might be in the game at the drop of a hat.
Does it surprise you that I put Luke Reimer on my now or never list? I just think he's supposed to have been the guy for a couple of years, right? Mm-hmm. He showed flashes. He's been called all conference caliber. I like him a lot in terms of his talent, but I put him squarely in that now or never list as well.
Well, he never really looked like himself last year. I didn't think. He was always fighting something, or maybe it was the way that he was meshing with the changes that were occurring. There was a lot of changes for those defensive guys, and if you were a player from the year before who fit well in the defense and were really effective, and he had 100 plus tackles. That goes back to the last full season before last year, but he was a proven guy in the defensive system. And then all of a sudden they threw these changes at him last year, a new coordinator halfway through. And I think he was dealing with some injuries. So obviously he missed some time. Yeah. We didn't see the real Luke Reimer last year. And this is his last, it's now or never for all the seniors, kind of, right? I mean, he's a senior. So
you could see the shift maybe if this, depending on how the season gets started, where they just may decide to go young. You hope it doesn't get to that point with some positions, but I mean,
that's something that Rhule.
When you see Gatulas and Sledges, it's not ideal, but
that's something that Matt Rhule did at Temple and at Baylor, and he's been adamant that they're not going to do that at Nebraska this year. He hasn't said we're not going to go young, we're not going to play our young players. That's not what he's saying. What he's saying repeatedly is that he feels this sense of obligation to the older players. He feels Nebraska owes it to the guys who've been in this program for a number of years and have put everything into it and haven't had winning seasons. He owes it to them to do everything that he can to make this team win one more game or two more games. So they're not going to, I think he said last Friday that they're not going to mortgage the season on the backs of the young players. And they've done some of that in previous stops with Matt Rhule. It's benefited them in the long run because those young players are more experienced and they're veterans and they're prepared to compete for championships a couple years down the road. But that's not his plan. That's not his plan here. He's going to play the guys who have earned that right to play. And right now it's the older guys in most cases.
It's so funny you said that. I asked him in our sit down in the summer, I said, give me a couple of examples of things that have worked for you in the past that may work against you this year, like just fighting the tendency of, because sometimes smart people, it's like, I know what should work, but yet if you're a lifelong learner, you still have to be evaluating on the fly. And one of the things that he alluded to without saying it specifically was this team is in better position numbers and depth wise than other places that he's inherited. So something like maybe going young may not be in the cards, even though it's paid dividends for him in the past.
Yeah, that's, his messaging matches up. Sometimes you get coaches who you hear something in an interview that they said, or a video from a team meeting that came out to the public in March, and then there's another one in July and another one in August. And if you really evaluate it, you kind of scratch your head, and it seems like they were making contradictory statements, but that's not been the case with him. His messaging it's very, very steady and holds true. And he's continued to, whether he says it outright or not, he's continued to point toward that philosophy with this team that they're going to do everything they can to make it make it a great experience for these older players like Luke Reimer.
We're talking with Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Mitch, I'm curious, going all the way back to your Anthony Grant answer on Show and It Will Tell, how much of that has to do with the assumption that if Anthony Grant has a good year, it means the offensive line was at least solid?
I think that's kind of a hot take, Mitch, but I'm vibing with you when you said Grant. That's a deep cut.
Yeah, I think a lot of what he does depends on the offensive line. And Damon, you tell me if you agree with this, but I thought last year, toward the end of the season, he got frustrated with what was happening in front of him. And it was against better competition. When you're playing Wisconsin and Iowa, the holes don't open the same way that they do against North Dakota and Northwestern or Georgia Southern. But also the offensive line was worn down and mentally exhausted, I think, in the case of some guys. And the holes that Anthony Grant had been seeing that had gotten him a lot of yards, they either were opening for much smaller times or they weren't opening at all. And while the coaches wanted him to run a certain way, I think Anthony was frustrated because it was hard for him to run that way. It's hard for him to, I think, go into some situations where he was getting 6 yards on a play early in the year without doing anything extraordinary. And then that play was going to get him 1 yard or 2 yards against Iowa or Wisconsin. So as a result, he started to go away from what the coaches wanted him to do and take his runs a different direction. And that just led to, Ramir Johnson playing.
And, it's frustrating, Mitch. It's like Nebraska wasn't good enough to just get in the gun and run zone with no read and expect that to make hay against quality defenses. I'm sure that's why I think when Coach Rhule was very defiant in saying we're going to have a good offensive line, we have to put them in positions to be successful, I think 90% of that has to do with just running plays that accentuate strengths and not magnify weaknesses.
I think it sets up okay for Anthony Grant right now. And as long as he's over the issues with ball security, I think when he gets out there, he's going to have success at some of those things they want him to do and being a physical back and it does come back to the offensive line. But for me, when I look at this offensive line, the strength is in the middle. It's the questions are still at tackle. And the strength, I don't have a lot of questions about Ethan Piper, Ben Scott, Nuri Nuili. I think those guys, the only thing is maybe some consistency.
Yeah, Ben Scott is in my is my sneaky pick that's in the show, and it will tell. Ben Scott was my number 2 pick.
I think Ethan Piper is the most consistent lineman that they have, and Ben Scott can be the best, like the highest ceiling. And then Nuri he's not as consistent, but he can be a beast when things click for him, and he's got to continue to work on that. So if they have all 3 of those guys going at the same time across the middle of a defensive front, I think they're going to open holes. I think it can be one of the better interior groups, 3 linemen in the Big Ten West. That's saying,
especially with a fullback run game. Mitch.
Oh yeah,
right.
The fullback
that's huge.
I don't know that. I don't think the offensive line can be at that level. 5 guys, they don't have the depth. I mean, it's not really 5 guys. It's like it has to be like 7 or 8. And you mentioned Sledge and Gatula. I'd rather see them in that top 7 or 8 next year than this year. But there they are, in part because Gunner was here in the spring, and they've taken advantage of this opportunity. And Prohaska has missed most of preseason camp. So, regardless, there are depth issues on the offensive line, and it's not a top 2 or 3 group, I don't think, in the West right now. But I think across the middle it can be, and that can be really good for Gabe Ervin and Anthony Grant to run behind a fullback and 3 very solid interior linemen.
Mitch, we've been thinking a lot about Jeff Sims for obvious reasons. If Nebraska is, let's say, just bowl eligible, however far past that you want to put it, but if Nebraska becomes bowl eligible, how good does Jeff Sims have to be? Can he be kind of a caretaker, or does he have to be dynamic for Nebraska to make a bowl game?
He has to be dynamic in the sense that they have to get a lot out of him. And I guess that's what dynamic means. I don't mean that he has to throw for 3,000 yards and complete 67% of his passes. He has to be effective throwing the ball. I mean, he could throw for 200 a game and be effective doing it and get done what Nebraska wants to in moving the chains. Not going to be the kind of big play offense that they've been the last couple of years.
He could rush 9 carries for 45 yards and have it be a good day.
And then the other piece of it is he has to get Nebraska out of some situations with his legs. He's got to be able to break a big play now and then with his legs and get decent yardage in just staying on and helping Nebraska stay on schedule offensively. So to me, that's dynamic. If he's multifaceted in having some big play ability with the run game and some on schedule ability with his legs, and then he can limit his turnovers and just keep Nebraska moving, keep the offense on the field, even if they're not scoring points. If they have 8 or 9 play drives that end in punts, fantastic. Then that's good for Jeff Sims. And that everything, we talked about complementary football, I think, a lot early in Rhule's time, and early in the offseason. Like, it's not still early in his time. He hasn't coached a game yet, but complementary football, like when the offense goes 8 or 9 plays and punts and you give the defense a chance to rest, and then, and Bushini comes out and kicks it 50 yards, and then the defense, gives up 6-play drive and forces a punt. Like, this stuff, I think they're better set up right now for this stuff to work together, offense, defense, special teams. And that's, that starts at the top. That's because Matt Rhule has a real plan for the way that he wants to play football. So it's not just we're gonna do this on offense, we're gonna do this on defense. Like, watched USC last week, and I have questions. Like, they're great offensively, but I have questions.
Zero complimentary football, right? Like,
not complimentary football.
It's weird.
Yeah. A lot of teams in the Big Ten play complimentary football, especially the teams that aren't at the top of the Big Ten but are successful year after year. And that's the track that I think they're trying to go down. So I won't put too much on the quarterback, but this year, every year, but his job's really important to be multifaceted.
So, Mitch, you're more apt to say what? If the offense is too quarterback centric, Nebraska will have what type of season?
If they have to go with 2 guys?
If it's two quarterback, like if we talk about the quarterback run game and Jeff Sims.
Two, like TOO.
TOO. Yeah.
They meant TWO. Okay. If it's two quarterback centric. Yeah. Well, we've seen that at Nebraska before. We saw it, 20 years ago. And Jamal Lord, what that does is, it's predictable. You're easier to defend, and then you don't end up having those longer drives. Yeah, that's a concern, because for me, the biggest question on the whole team right now, walking into the season, is are there enough playmakers on the offensive side to, from sideline to sideline, to allow Nebraska to be effective on offense? It can't all be in the middle. It can't all be the running backs and Sims. They're going to need Isaiah Garcia Castaneda and Marcus Washington. Billy Kemp's an inside guy. I'm sure that at some point they'll put him out wide, but he's most effective in the slot. So he's not stretching the field necessarily. At times, the tight ends, super important. A guy I think we should be talking about, and probably will be talking about after a couple of games, is Janiron Bonner, because I think it's going to be really exciting to see.
Robbie's taking a victory lap.
Well, how many roles are they going to use him in? He's been
all of them.
Yeah, he's been a receiver. We know he can, and he's bigger now, but he still has that.
I'm on the Borkacher Lindemeyer hype train as well. Any of the tight ends.
Lindemeyer. Okay.
Listen, he's on my didn't see that coming. Luke Lindemeyer is a nice sneaky X factor.
He's way under the radar right now.
Yeah.
Mitch, we appreciate your time as always. Real quick before we let you out of here, do you have a season record prediction?
Okay. All right. 6-6.
Hey, I'll take it.
Safe.
I'll take it. That's Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. We appreciate you as always.
Thanks, Mitch.
Thanks, guys.
Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. All right, we've got more of our categories. We're going to get them done here. Coming up next on Benning and Lulla.
We'll be right back in 5 minutes. We'll be right back in 4 minutes. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. We'll be right back in 1 minute. We'll be right back in 30 seconds. Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
It's ODB with my main man, Ravi Lulla. If anything we have said has offended you and you are looking for a personal injury attorney, make sure you go see the fine folks over at Dyer Law. Easy website to remember. It's dyer.law, or you can give them a buzz, 402-393-7529. Great location, just one block north of 117th and Center-ish, kind of Arbor. Easy location to find, and folks that are really, really good at what they do. That's Dyer Law.
Speaking of folks that are good at what they do, you want to go back to our show and it will tell? Show and it will tell category?
Yeah, so I knocked out a couple with Mitch just because they came up. So far in my show and it will tell, I've got Gabe Irvin.
Yep.
And I added Ben Scott.
Yep.
Because I think Ben Scott was the guy that was pressed in camp by Justin Evans Jenkins. I think they really like Justin Evans Jenkins. But if Ben Scott plays well, it shows you a lot of things. Number one, Mitch may be right that interior guard, center guard is pretty good, right? And if it is, Ben Scott can anchor that bad boy. And Nebraska will have done a good job being very choosy with what they've taken out of the portal, right? Because it wasn't like just a free-for-all.
Absolutely.
So I think Ben
especially
Scott,
for a first-year coach, it wasn't a free-for-all.
Yeah, Ben Scott will be is in that show and it will tell category because he was pressed in camp. Don't kid yourself.
So one of the guys that I've got in the show and it will tell category, I already said Ethan Piper. Another guy on the other side of the ball that I think is going to be really important and a really good bellwether for whether or not the defense is performing the way they want it to is Isaac Gifford. He's in that really important rover spot on the defense. If he's playing well, I think it's a really good indicator that Tony White's defense is doing what they want it to do. And that he is, I think a lot of things are kind of going to be funneled to him in that rover spot. I think he's going to have some of the counting stats that you look at, but more importantly, if he's flying around all over the place, that's a really good sign for Tony White's defense, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you. So I'm just going to finish up my show and it will tell category. He's been mentioned a ton.
Yeah.
It's nothing novel, just not in anybody's same category.
Yeah.
I'm going with Shenarian Bonner.
Okay. Yeah, fair.
Because he's a proof of concept guy, as you like to say, a developmental guy. Not a lot of other coaches have seen him in this role. He's kind of a jack of all trades. If he's operating on a high level and is getting multi-usage from multiple spots, that's good for this offense because that means that their plan is working.
Yes.
And I think that's an easy deal. So for my three in the show and it will tell category are Gabe Ervin, Janarian Bonner, and Ben Scott.
Yeah, my last one in that category is Ty Robinson.
Very interesting. He is in another one of my categories, but it is not that one.
So for me, I think it's, again, a guy that has been used as an example of what they want out of the program. And he's been in the system for, obviously not Rhule system, but in the program for a few years now. I think if he is playing well, it makes it easier on the Blaze Gundersons and Nash Hutmakers of the world who are a little bit less proven to be able to step up and do their jobs as well. If he's playing well, I think it means good things for that defensive line. And because of the fact that he's an example of what they want, again, kind of the same deal with Ethan Piper. If he's what they want off the field and then he proves it on the field, that is a really good sign, not just for this season, but for the program in general.
Yeah, I'm going to jump down to now or never. You know that Luke Reimer is in that category for me. I'm going with Ty Robinson.
And you're now or never.
Is
okay.
in my now or never, where if Nebraska's going to be who they need to be, this has got to be his time.
Sure.
Right? I think he worked really hard in the offseason in transforming his body. I think he could use personally a shot in the arm, emotionally. He was supposed to be the guy. He came in highly touted. He's kind of Whipping Boy is a little strong, but there have been some criticisms of wanting him to be more and be able to capitalize on some of the glimpses that he's shown. His frame is much better. I think he's closer to being an elite level in terms of fitness.
Man, he looked lean.
Yeah.
For being 6'6", 300 pounds, he looked pretty lean.
He absolutely is in my now or never category because I think for Nebraska to be who they want to be defensively and continue Tony White's trend in terms of being good against the run,
he's got to be that guy.
Ty Robinson's got to be that guy.
So we already hit two of mine in now or never. Bryce Benhart, Turner Corcoran, very similar reasons, right? Super highly touted guys because of their physical abilities. I know that this staff doesn't make a ton out of offers and stars and things like that, but it's an easy way for people on the outside to kind of gauge perceived talent levels, right? Both of these guys had about all you could ask for in terms of offers, stars, physical abilities, whatever. They haven't really consistently done it on the offensive line. They're both a few years into the program. I think for once, we're actually going to see an offense that, like you said, caters to the strengths rather than magnifies the weaknesses. If they can't get it done with this set of circumstances, I don't think they can get it done, right? Yes. So those are two guys for me.
Oh, yeah, and you got the third.
My last one, also on the offensive line, but for a very different reason.
Wow, really, Robbie?
My guy, Teddy P. And it's mostly a health thing, right? If he can't get through this year healthy, I'm not sure he's going to, because it's starting to stack up. It's really hard on big bodies that way. This isn't an indictment of how he's played, because when he's played, he's been good.
Yeah, there aren't a lot of people walking around 6'10", 320.
Right, and when you start getting banged up, the accumulative effect of that on your body is really hard. If he can't get through this year healthy, I'm afraid, I hope I'm wrong. I mean, first of all, I just hope he can get through the year healthy, but I'm afraid if he doesn't, he may not be able to physically perform the way that he was once able to.
Okay. So my third I mentioned in passing with Mitch Sherman was Blaze Gunderson. Very similar reasons. So I've got Reimer, Robinson, Gunderson in my now or never. Let me throw you a curveball in my didn't see that.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Because he has been mentioned a couple of times and it hasn't been necessarily to the positive.
Okay. So this is a negative.
This is to the good.
Oh, okay. All right.
Didn't see this coming.
All right.
I think Turner Corcoran will be better than his critics say. He's changed his body type as well. I think he's playing better at 45s. I think he's confident. And I know we cringe.
Yeah.
Right. But guess what? When I don't just have to quick set and pass pro and turn guys loose and say, hey, block those guys.
Yeah.
And I may actually have to have them zone read a little bit. Maybe we don't block him at all and we get to the second level and we slow down his ability to get up the field. I'm going to help my tackles out with my offensive play design. And the did not see it coming. I'm going with Turner Corcoran, and I think we didn't see it coming to the good. I think he'll be better than the negativity and his critics have said this far.
I like it. Those are good reasons there. We've already got two of mine. Billy Kemp to the I don't think the way people are talking about him right now, I don't think he's going to be that guy. I think he's going to be very solid the way he's been his whole career, but he's not a game breaker. He's never been that guy. I don't think he's going to be that guy for Nebraska. I think some people are putting that on him, and I don't like that. My guy Bonner, to the good, I think he's going to be Nebraska's Jaheim Bell. My last guy, I'm out on a limb on this one. I'm just going to be honest with you. Okay?
Hot take, Lulla.
I don't know if it's a hot take. I just think it's kind of out of left field a little bit.
Okay. Well, you could get all the credit if you're right.
To the positive,
okay.
Cam Lenhart. He's listed as a co-starter on the depth chart. I really liked him in the spring game.
He's one of the reasons I think Blaise Gunnarson's got to get it going.
He probably does need to get it going because I really like Cam Lenhart. He's listed as a co-starter as a true freshman. Like that's pretty high level stuff right there. I really have liked what I saw out of him. Hasn't been much, right? We're going off of very limited sample sizes here. I just have it's a gut thing more than anything else. I like Lenhart. I think he's going to be an impactful defensive lineman for Nebraska as a true freshman. I haven't heard hardly anybody talk about him, despite the fact that as a true freshman, he is listed as an or on that first line of the depth chart. I'm going with him to the positive.
From my last one.
Am I crazy?
No.
Okay.
I'm vibing.
Okay.
I'd tell you if I thought you were out.
I know. I was just,
Because so far in my didn't see that coming, right? I've got Luke Lindemeyer. I got Turner Corcoran.
Yep. Who's the last one?
Similar vein. Nate Borkinger.
Oh, yeah. You love Borkinger.
People didn't really love the way he caught the football. Kind of, he's kind of flying under the radar.
Bedoni gets all the headlines.
Bedoni gets all the headlines. Again, if they're going to play in a way that they want to play, his versatility will be key. Right?
Absolutely.
You can use him as an H-back. You can put him as an inline tight end. The root game is good with him. He knows how to get open. He's crafty. Didn't see that coming to the good. So much is focused on Bedoni and what's happening there. Lindemeyer and both Borkinger have a chance to flourish.
Coming up next, we'll be focused on Hurrdat's own Avarie Howard right here on Benning and Lulla.
The show will be back in 4 minutes. The show will be back in 3 minutes. show will be back in 2 minutes. The show will be back in 1 minute. The show will be back in 30 seconds. Hurrdat Sports presents The Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
Ravi Lulla here, Damon Benning with me as well, and we are happy to bring on our colleague over at Hurrdat Sports, Avarie Howard. Avarie, how you doing this morning?
Can you guys hear me?
Yep,
we got you.
There you are.
Perfect.
How are you this morning, Avarie?
I'm good. I'm getting ready to take off for Lincoln here when I get off the phone with you guys, but I'm excited. It's going to be a pretty cool day. I don't think it's really sunk in how amazing today is going to be.
So you're kind of double dipping, right? You catch snippets of what's going on with practice and you get a good feel for that. And you're there for the duration. Doors open at 3 and it's officially volleyball day. How are you balancing that in the old medulla oblongata?
I don't know.
She'll tell you when she figures it out.
Yeah, I'll get there when I get there. I don't know. Today's going to be awesome. I think a lot of things on the checklist to make sure get on all of our accounts and all that kind of cool stuff, while also trying to just really enjoy and soak the moment. I kind of got almost emotional last night thinking about the volleyball team coming out of the tunnel today, because as a little girl, I was like, God, I want to run out of that tunnel. So I can't wait for that moment for those girls and just for all the fans to watch another team come out of that tunnel. And then day ends and we get on a 5:30 flight to Minnesota tomorrow. So it's bang, bang, and I can't wait. Season's finally here.
Yeah, that's interesting because you're right. Football is your baby, right? You're like Memorial Stadium and you grew up such a huge fan. And now you see the volleyball team in the same deal. Where does your heart lie? Because I think football was first, right? Are you just taking the best of both worlds?
Yeah. I mean, I grew up playing soccer, but volleyball was my second favorite sport. And funny enough, my dad actually played club volleyball at Nebraska and then went to Omaha his final year, and he helped Coach Rose be on the coaching staff. So volleyball also kind of has a close place in my heart as well. And obviously when you grow up in the Nebraska community, there's an affinity for watching what those girls do on the court. So I went to Omaha, and I share a love with Nebraska athletics as well, just because it's where I grew up. So it's kind of a really cool day to watch not only my school participate in this and get the exposure that I think they deserve as well, but getting to watch these girls on this stage and like with this love of 90,000 plus. I'm really, truly excited.
Avarie, switching gears here to football. You mentioned you're heading up to Minnesota on that bright and early flight there tomorrow morning. How are you feeling going into this season opener? Are you kind of cautiously optimistic? Is it more of just an anxious feeling? How are you feeling going into Matt Rhule's first game?
Quite transparent. I don't even think I've even thought about the game enough yet. How many things are happening this week? However, I think the biggest thing I think I've tried to relay to most people that ask me is I also think I'm on the Matt Rhule train, that when people ask me my record, I'm like, no, we're taking it day by day. I'm not giving you my record. Like, I think I've gotten sucked into that. But I truly told people I don't think we can go backwards. I think we have a leader in the building that cares passionately. He's got a heart for these kids, and not only wanting to make sure this program is in good hands, but making sure like the lives of everyone that seem to be around this program are in good hands. And I think when you have someone that has an accountability and detail-oriented mindset like that, no knock on the last coaching staff in the past few, but I think there's a holistic approach to this entire thing, that when the culture and things are right at heart, I think we'll start to see those things play out correctly on the field. So I think my goal is I want to be able to see, I don't know, I guess it sounds probably basic, but I want to see everything that I've seen and heard at practice start to be exemplified in these games. And I know you kind of said it, DD, yesterday, but we hear it so much from the coaches and the players that they say the same things, they speak the same words, but, Coach Rhule says, we're not just going to say those things. We are going to, we're going to be them. We're not going to do them. We're going to be what we say we are. So I think I'm excited to finally maybe see what that identity of Nebraska football looks like right now. And hopefully game by game, I can identify, hey, I've seen that in practice. I've seen that detail been worked on so many times. I've heard them say that. So maybe that's more of a season kind of expectation, but I think in game one, it's kind of what we saw in the spring game, like things that we saw in practice in the spring. Like DB and I talked about after the game, we're like, we've seen that in practice and we saw it exemplified in a spring game. So adding some more months of practice, I'm hoping there's a lot more of that against Minnesota.
Obviously, like the big Avarie fans out here, right? You see the Hurrdat Sports account. We've paid attention to your reports. We know the words that you use, right? And not to put you on the spot, but I think one of your best attributes is the ones that we can't see. Your ability to read a room and then articulate kind of what's going on is a very it's a nice skill set that you have. So I ask you this: when Coach Rhule says, we don't worry about how you start, we worry about how you finish. I want to go through some adversity. I'll probably smile if they run the opening kickoff back. And he has these little things that he says, but deep down, you said you're all in. You honestly believe there's this thing about him that allows him to thrive in chaos. Yeah. What is it that you picked up on that you think is that way?
I think you look at his track record. One, he's stepped into programs that have been much more broken than the one that Nebraska has been when he walked in here. So I think he knows how to capture a room and get the belief of a team pretty quickly, whether that means they win one or two games. We see the turnover in the next season. But, I think I watched an interaction with him the very first practice I ever went to, and the way that he there was a chaotic moment in practice, and the way he got everyone back online and also kind of like took accountability for maybe the chaos. I think when there's a shared responsibility that, if I hold up my end, I expect you guys to do that too. And it's not just always the player's fault. I think that's really nice. I mean, maybe that's me as an athlete speaking, but I know when the coach can take fault and not just say it, because, there's times when coaches say, every loss is my fault. Well, I don't always believe that. But I think I don't. And I think it's because then that kind of gives out. And I think it's nice when, both parties can know maybe who let the other down, and, when it's a win, it goes to both sides. So I think he shares that really well with his team so far from, I guess, what I've observed. So, I also think there's like I don't want to say a chip on the shoulder attitude, but I've heard some of the coaches say to their players, like in practice, like, I don't know, I about ran through a wall the other day when Coach Coop was like, you should have like a how dare you mentality. I was like, okay. That was awesome. So,
and he's like, okay. Serious. Like he even texts with intensity.
Yeah, he does. And like, I don't know. If I had a coach in my ear saying that all the time, I'd be like, okay, let's go then. I don't know. So I think like you said, if we can have that kind of mentality, and it's like, they score on us, but it's like, okay, we'll come right back. I'm excited to see what the fight looks like this week. Maybe in a time where we've been kind of used to laying down a little bit.
Avery, you kind of talked about it there. There's kind of this balance with Matt Rhule and the coaching staff taking responsibility, but also holding their players accountable. It can be kind of a fine line, but do you think that type of mentality is something that can clean up some of the football that we've seen from the past few years that was a little sloppy at times and maybe get them over the finish line in some of these close games?
I think so. I think, me and DB talked about in our preview show yesterday. I asked him what's going to be a sign of progress on defense. He was like lining up correctly. And like, that's something, that's,
I was dead serious.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah,
I mean,
those are things that like sound kind of silly and basic, but it's something that hasn't been executed in the past few years. And so I think when the little things are taken care of and you have a coach that is detail oriented as he is, I'm hoping to see improvement in that. But I also think too, the players in a lot of these press conferences have said, we will beat ourselves. Like our biggest goal right now is to not beat ourselves. And like when they have a practice where there's been some mess ups, like their mentality is how do we fix it the next day, or let alone fix the next rep. They talk about not making the same mistake twice. So I think those little things that the players that are clearly cognizant of, whether they've been on the team before or they are new to this team, that they know that I think the pieces are in place. It's a matter of do they put them in the right place and not, beat them up themselves. And like we talked about, the coaches said they're going to turn these players loose. So it's kind of on them too. And when I asked DB that, he was like, no, I think that kind of gives them the reins and they know it kind of falls on their shoulders a little bit more. So I think that shared responsibility should hopefully over time maybe soothe out some of those issues. I would hope it would be in week one though, maybe.
How desperately do you think if he had his best case scenario, it'd come down? It's a 2 or 3 point game with Nebraska having a chance to win it, and he's got to execute a 4-minute offense. How many times have you heard him allude to four quarters, heavyweight fight, big boy football, the teams that finish at the end? And he said yesterday, I've worked really hard at that. Is there is there another thing that you picked up on that he'd love to speak into existence more than that?
I mean, I don't know. I think when you look at the way that we've played football the past few years, like what's the defining moment of Nebraska? It's been that we can't finish a one-score game, right? So I think whether we know how long he knew he was looking for this job or not, he watched a lot of Nebraska's games last year. He knows, I think coming into this season, this is something that's got to change if I take that position, right? And so whether it be one score, whether it be the fourth quarter, I think it comes down. I mean, we've seen the documentary or whatever they're calling it on YouTube to look in, like he gets the guys ready. He's like, after practice, we are going to do this. Like, it's going to be hard at the end of practice. Like, it's the same mentality in the game. Like, it's going to be hard at the end. Like when I was in soccer, when I knew there was running on the board before practice instead of it being a surprise, like, oh my God, does that change the whole entire trajectory of practice? You're like, got to run at the end. We got to power through this entire thing, and then we got to run. So that just changes the mentality, I think. So there's been little things that he's done along the way to kind of get those guys ready for the fourth quarter without it actually being maybe a fourth quarter training necessarily.
That's our friend Avarie Howard of Hurrdat Sports. Avarie, we appreciate your time. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys. See you this weekend.
Thanks, Abe.
That's Avarie Howard on the Warhorse Hotline. Make sure you get down to Lincoln and check out the Warhorse Casino, the only place in Nebraska you can place sports bets.
She is uber talented.
Really, really good stuff there from Avarie. We will be back tomorrow. Split show, Damon in Minnesota, me here. We will catch you then.
You won't miss me.